All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the West Essex Milwaukee School Board to order. Mr. Keller, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Private and some personal medical things that are going on. We're down 3 board members today, but we have enough to carry on with the meeting, and so we'll do that. Proper list of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do we have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
There are no modifications.
All right, we'll move right into the superintendent's report.
Good evening. Good evening. I want to first start out with reviewing some of the legislative updates for the state. As everyone may be aware of, Act 20 was brought into law last summer, and this law created sort of it overhauls the reading instruction that will occur for our students, the science of reading. What we're urging and what several of our legislators are urging is that there's a delay in consideration of the delay for Act 20 implementation. And so WASB as well as Superintendent Underly have also joined in the request for that extension. More to come concerning that, but this act has a lot of implications as far as training is concerned, as well as the way that our finances are spent and resources are spent towards reading instruction and training for teachers. And so we're really looking forward to trying to get some feedback on concerning the implementation and timeline. Our district recognitions, Central Heights. Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Okay, Capital Watch committees in both chambers met starting in February 5th. Take action on over 30 bills affecting K-12 education. Specifically, there are some legislation dealing with open enrollment that we're definitely watching as far as the district is concerned, and those implications of monies that could be coming out are into our district. Central High School in December. Central High School embraced the season of giving with their winter food basket program. Central staff donating money towards food baskets to be donated to families in need. Some staff chose to personalize their baskets with family traditions and basket extras, such as hot cocoa, popcorn, special cookies, and other treats. All baskets include their ham, vegetables, potatoes, bread, peanut butter, jelly, eggs, and butter. Even a former Bulldog teacher, Mike Lunkowski, now a district administrator, inspired others with their family's generosity. Larry Lineberger and Mary Pat O'Hara, school social workers, and Andrea Arzuski, I may have messed it up, but I tried, and Kaylee Lure and Nate Rice, student services counselors, did an amazing job pairing families with baskets and making deliveries. Julie Passano, Laura Nielsen, and Consuelo Martinez helped facilitate the basket collections and pickups. This program would not be possible without the support of Central Administration team, Principal Brian Summerfield, Assistant Principals Aaron Horvath, and Lydia Sessing, as well as Iris Sevilla, Dean of Culture and Climate. More than 24 families received winter food baskets this past holiday. Special shout out coming from the Recreation Department and Shelley Strasser. District Athletic Strategic Plan Kickoff Meeting. The Recreation Department would like to recognize the intermediate school and high school athletic directors and coaches, Booster Club members, and junior sport program representatives for attending and sharing their valuable feedback at our district athletic strategic plan kickoff meeting. The meeting was successful and helped us to capture important information of shaping the direction and future of athletics in our district. WPRAS 2023 Silver Star Award. We are pleased to announce that our Recreation and Community Service Department was awarded WPRA 2023 Silver Star Award in older adult programming category for a recreational adult day program, which is called RAD, for those who are familiar with it. This program, nicknamed RAD, is managed by Bo Benner and led through day-to-day activities with Katie Lindgren. I just want to kind of comment, I've done a lot of visits over to the rec center. This is an exceptional program where our constituents who are 18 and older with disabilities are able to have a day program. And after talking with some of their parents, and the age range is from 18 to about 63, I believe is the oldest age for one of the participants in this program. So we are just thrilled to continue to support this particular effort in the recognitions. So our January Educators of the Month, I want to recognize two individuals today. The first is Miss Kimberly Ashenberger. Ms. Ashenberger is a K-5 teacher at Mitchell Elementary School. And what's interesting about this nomination, it was from a fellow administrator in the district whose daughter is in her class. And so we're glad that others at other individuals at other schools are recognizing the great things that are happening within their own kids' education. And so you want to.
She raised my babies too. I just have to say, and that means everything to me.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. So Ms. Ashenberg, you want to come on up, and we have our Principal Straw is here as well. Let's give her a hand.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah, we're working now. Notice your dedication for unicorn Band-Aid.
Thank you. Coming over.
The only one?
One more. Stephanie Menden. Sure.
And the second recognition, she's an EA at Frank Lloyd Wright, Miss Stephanie Menden. She, oh, that she is, okay. They didn't recognize these guys. Hold up.
See, I was gonna hang over here.
Called her on guard the other day. She was like, what is going on?
Congratulations.
We do have a special recognition tonight that we want to make. Recently, the state of Wisconsin and the Office of the Governor awarded a certificate of achievement honoring the West Milwaukee School District National Association of Music Merchants 2023 Best Communities for Music Education. The district received that award. So on behalf of the people of the state of Wisconsin, I'm pleased to congratulate you on being recognized by the National Association of Music Merchants as a 2023 Best Community for Music Education. I commend all the students, staff, educators, administrators, and community members whose hard work and dedication made this achievement possible. I extend my personal thanks for your commitment to ensuring each student has access to a quality music curriculum and a well-rounded education. You serve a bold example for educational institutions throughout the state, and that's from Governor Evers. So, yeah. Right. West Dallas, West Milwaukee is receiving this award for the 9th time. And it's one of 830 schools nationwide and only 29 schools statewide to receive this recognition. We have with us tonight Dr. Marty Lexman. I felt when we received this award, I told Suzette immediately, we gotta get Dr. Lexman to come tonight to receive this. We also have Merritt Pat Michaels, who is our music lead for the district. Would you please come on up at this time and accept this award?
We'll give him the opportunity to address this. So,
Say a few words.
All right, so I made some notes here. Just so everybody knows, this NAM award is something that we apply for every year, and it takes me, I'm down to about 45 minutes that I can get everything in and get all the essays in. I do have to know a bunch of stuff about the district financial budget type, how many students we have, all of those things. And for the last couple of years, it's been very different because of the pandemic and because of COVID. One year we got to say, it's all the same, check, and it took me 10 minutes and I was like, yes. Well, this year with fewer schools and different numbers and things, it did take me a little bit longer, but it is something that we apply for. And it's a lot of the things we know about our community. It's everything that everybody here knows. I have a little bit of a list, but there's something new that we also have. So we have performance music for all grades, starting in kindergarten with prelude strings, orchestra in 4th and band in 5th, which is different than many of our neighboring districts. We also have band, orchestra, and choir 6 through 12, and a variety of general music opportunities starting in 4K all the way through high school. All of our students do many community performances within the cities and also senior living centers. MISO calls us and asks Shining Strings to play gigs for them when MISO can't, provide music for that. So we do a lot of things outside as well. And we are still supported to do 3 all-city festivals in March for Music in Our Schools Month. We host our own solo ensemble where many other districts are combined with neighboring districts and have 3 or 4, and then they rotate who hosts. We always host our own. And parents are volunteering, community is volunteering, school board members are volunteering to help us run all of these things. So that is something I'm very proud of and why I have been here for 27 years. But the newest thing is we have a music education scholarship that was given to all of our students in Marty's name when Marty retired. And I'm going to have him speak to you about that because that's something that's going to support all of our kids who maybe don't have those financial means to do what they want to do in music education. So I'll turn it over to Marty. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And Dr. Robinson, I appreciate the invitation and it's great to see everyone again. Standing on this side is a joy. To be able to also to be able to just share with you kind of a little bit of an update about the music education scholarship. It was truly an honor to have served in the role of superintendent here for 8 years and to leave with a legacy of music education being really supported. And anything you can do to support things that go beyond the classroom really develops kids as full human beings in the arts and athletics. I'm thrilled to see a strategic plan around athletics moving forward. All of those things make a difference in what happens to kids well beyond when they leave our classrooms. So a little bit of an update about the scholarship. We established a committee. So there's some teachers, some parents that have joined a committee to help shape kind of how the scholarships then will be distributed. We've also put together a way to raise funds, and we've tried different things at the various concerts and plays. What seems to be working best are students with a bucket asking for anybody's loose change. And that seems to be really effective, and we're going to continue that, especially during the All City Festival concerts. So far, through that effort, we've raised, and through other donations, raised $2,260.80. And so little by little, that is growing. The goal is to really invest the initial $10,000 that the board set aside and grow that so that someday we're no longer asking for spare change, that the interest on the fund will provide the scholarships going forward. The plan at this point is that we have built a application process and a review process. The applications are out. They've been sent to all of the music teachers and directors of plays. It's available to any students that are in band, orchestra, choir, or in the theater productions that really want to go a little bit above and beyond, but maybe can't quite afford those kinds of opportunities. The scholarship applications are due April 15th, and we're going to be announcing the winners during the May concert series. And so that'll be a moment for us to really celebrate the young people. And the other goal we've set is, even though the scholarship, lives in my name, which I appreciate, it's really not about me. It's about the young people that receive the support. And going forward, we want to tell the story of their accomplishments and what they do with the resources, so that it becomes less about me and more about them going forward. And so we look forward to the first cycle of those announcements and to continuing to grow the fund. And I'll be back hopefully to update you again and see where we are a year from now. Thank you, and I wish you all the very best.
Yeah.
So moving on, as part of our Faces series, we just wanted to show you a glimpse of our latest series video. We want you to meet Jerry. Jerry is he's a longtime citizen of this particular community, of our community, and I met Jerry at Rotary, and Jerry had some fascinating stories to talk about his experience when he was a student at Wilson Elementary. And so we asked Jerry to come back to Wilson with us, and want to hear some stories from him. So we're going to play just a glimpse of this, but we'll have it on the full story on social media. Out of our community, not only with Rotary, but also Knights of Columbus, and being a true partner with our district. Knights of Columbus volunteers and supports the work of Shared Journeys. He's adamant about supporting that program. And so anytime that we can highlight the people who are out there in our communities doing the work, and as also alumni of our district, we want to do that. So thank you, Jerry, for allowing us to capture those moments. So other updates. So because some of my visits, I won't go through the entire thing, so I feel like I'm going too long tonight. Instructional rounds at Franklin, Irving, Hoover, Central, in West Milwaukee, brown bag lunch with teachers and staff members at those same schools. I met with the student advisory group. We nicknamed it The Voice, and I'll kind of talk about that on the next slide in just a second. Board meeting one-on-ones as well. I did attend the Chamber of Commerce social where Mayor Devine was the featured speaker. Attended boys basketball games for both high schools as well as wrestling meet at Central. CISA #1 superintendent's meeting and Quadrant B superintendent's meeting as well. Just wanted to do a formal introduction to the community for our student advisory committee. And we've nicknamed it The Voice. We believe that having student voice is important as we consider policies and changes that are going to affect our students. So what better way to effectively implement things than just to kind of have their input. So John, Brody, Madison, Sienna, Journey, Jayla. I want to recognize Jayla. She's an early graduate. She's no longer on our team, but she's an early graduate at Hill. Sophia, October, as well as Alexander and Devin. All of our students are from all of our high schools. So we have Docky represented, DLVA, as well as Hale and Central. I want to also kind of go through some data points tonight. Parents, you should be receiving a letter. If you haven't received, I think it'll be emailed already today. We think it's important that we start to include the community as well as our parents in the conversation of student improvement. And but what better way to start that collaboration is by sending the FastBridge scores home. FastBridge is given 3 times a year. And so you should be receiving the winter scores along with a letter that kind of talks about what FastBridge is and how to sort of interpret the scores for your students. I think it's important. My own wife is asking me what is FastBridge. So if the superintendent's house has the same questions, I know that other people will as well. And so I think it's important that we're very transparent and that we include them in the process for improvement. Just to kind of go through some of the winter scores. So we generally do a comparison between fall and winter. That's the way you kind of see if students are growing, although it doesn't always work out like that because it does, the bar tends to widen a bit once you progress throughout the year. So we are seeing growth throughout our elementary years, and it starts to get a little stagnant when it gets to 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade, but not much. We are working on progress monitoring plans, which I think is very, very important, that once you have a score for the fall, then you have to implement a progress monitoring plan for each student to improve or get improvements for that next score. And so we'll do the same thing for the winter. We'll implement progress monitoring for those students because we expect to see growth in individual students come the spring administration. Yes, ma'am.
For 3rd grade, it should be in red.
Oh,
Like you were
okay.
correct. I just want to make sure our
Okay.
data is being presented correctly.
Good eye. I apologize.
I apologize.
So I want to kind of go through the reading. Now, the reading, it's a little different where you see a little bit more pink. But I'll kind of explain that for reading, we actually use Scholastic as our reading, our core reading choice. And so it's sort of like when you're doing instruction in one model and then you assess in a model, sometimes it doesn't align. And so that's where you do see bit of dips from one to the other. But I will assure you that we are tracking Scholastic through as our main reading source. So that kind of explains things, especially at the elementary level, why you see either being kind of stagnant or you may see a little dip. It's kind of apples and oranges a bit when you talk about assessing kids and growth. Now, this is for the highest 2 levels of scoring. So low risk and college pathways are the highest levels that you want kids to be in. Now, that's not to say that we don't expect to see more or higher numbers, but this is where we are in my interpretation. Alyssa, did you have anything that you want to explain?
I was just gonna add that, I mean, I think some of this speaks to the need to continue to support our early literacy skills within our teaching staff as well as leaders. So knowing that a lot of students do fall into like that struggling reader category, and we're seeing that kind of reflected in our data. But I agree, we're putting a lot of plans and supports in place around progress monitoring and small group intentional instruction for students. So as we do instructional rounds, leaders and teachers can speak really specifically to what they're working with students. So we're seeing great instructional shifts, but we haven't yet seen that in the data yet.
Next slide. So in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District, we strive to create and maintain a culture of instructional collaboration that is student-centered, process-driven, and outcome-focused. Within this particular model, you also have sort of the 4 professional learning community questions. When we walk in classrooms and when we're talking to principals, we often ask, well, what do we want all students to know and be able to do? And these same questions they should be asking them teachers. When teachers are planning, they should ask themselves these questions as they're planning lessons. How will we know if they learned? In other words, how are we assessing that learning? We can't say, well, I think they know. Well, how do you know they learned? That's all of that assessment. How will we respond when some students do not learn? In other words, how are we jumping in and addressing things that kids don't know? How are we working on reteaching, re-enrichment interventions, those things? How will we extend the learning for students who are often proficient? In other words, how are we taking those kids who already know? Are we taking it and making the rigor more intense for those students and meeting their needs as well? So it's looking at students for all that students who are in all tiers of learning or groups in our structure. So just kind of want to go through something real quick and a little bit more intentional tonight. Alyssa mentioned instructional rounds. This is something that we've invested a lot of time with in looking at data and having principals to kind of orientate us on the data that they're looking at from fall to winter. And that's not just numbers. We're talking about attendance. We're talking about discipline. We're talking about walkthrough numbers. We're looking at all kind of data and seeing how they're driving instruction. A part of the instructional rounds that I think is one of the most effective things within it, though, is that each school is to develop 2 problems of practice. These problems of practice are, one is an instructional planning problem of practice, and the other one are instructional delivery. You may ask, what are problems of practice? Problems of practice are things that you are working on as a leader and as a school. Like, what are the things that you're working on? For planning, it could be, we're focusing more on small group instruction. So how are you doing that as a leader? What are you working on with your teams? And so we really probe and make sure they're looking at the right things. And at the same time, they have look fors. So what we want to do is provide them feedback based on our walkthroughs. So they provide us what we would call look for. So we go in classrooms, look for these, look for this, look for that. And we give them feedback at the end based on the look fors that they said we should see and whether we see those things. Any questions on anything? I'm just make sure. All right, good. Mr. Baker, you have a question. Learning faces.
Well, we've gotten the updates from our leadership team and the other day. And I was just curious how that compares to the charts that we saw for the beginning of the year to the middle of the year data. For that one, we had the far below level, approaching, on level, and above level. You mentioned that these are for the top 2 levels of that. These 2 top pieces of the columns here.
So we can break it down more. We can actually send that to you guys. We just gave you the top 2, so you can assume that the other out of 100 would be in the bottom 2 levels.
Okay.
But we can break that down and get that to them. Do you understand what he's asking?
Yeah, he's referencing in our, the board update we sent, and Corey supports all of our whole system with data analysis. What you're referencing is our into math data, which is our resources assessment. And what is you have to be paying attention to is that into math they have 5 categories, whereas in Fast Bridge and Forward there's 4. Right, so we've done a cross analysis and we can include that and share that with you, Joe.
Great.
We see actually very similar when we look at the number of students who are essentially proficient or advanced across both assessments. It's like tracking really closely. What we're seeing there is the same as what we see in Fastbridge. Is there anything you would add to that,
The
Claire?
categories don't match.
But the categories don't match.
Sure.
It's kind of hard to.
And that's the thing, because I got when I got the message, I was happy to see like the trend is good, it looks like, but there's a lot more red up there than I would anticipate to see based on it.
Yeah, that was the reading. That was the reading. But you're talking about into math. So, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's two different things. Yeah.
So the math here,
Mistake. I thought I saw math up there, maybe I was.
Yeah,
No, you did.
Maybe I was thinking about.
so the math here, where you're seeing that growth that you see on your into math growth measure data is you can see all that green in elementary where we've implemented this new curriculum. So that aligns there. Where we know that we have to dig in a little bit deeper is with our middle school. So that end of elementary
Oh, it does.
and then
My
six.
my
Yep.
mistake, never mind.
And also that is measuring growth, where this is measuring at this point in third grade, every student should be at this level. Right? So those are two different, so students are growing a lot.
Mhm.
So as I say, the goalpost is moving though. Every half semester, the expectation gets higher for students. So we're starting to close gaps that we have in math. That's the encouraging thing. But like I said, that is going to take time when you have students that may be struggling in math and a year or two behind some of their peers. So
Okay.
lots of growth isn't yet reflected in our Fastbridge data, but is in many ways in math.
Okay. All right.
So. Great, thank you.
So in a conversation, probably about 3 weeks ago, Mr. Lee asked me a specific question. He said, what are we doing for students in our Title I population, our most at-risk schools? Okay. And I referred to the use of Title I. And so just wanted to kind of express some joy because we're starting to see the supports that we really want, specifically for Horace Mann and West Milwaukee. We have retired teachers who are working through Trice Educational Services to provide small group instruction and pullouts and push-ins for students on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at each campus. And it's good to have certified retired people to go in and provide some small group instruction for the schools that we would say are most needy as far as our populations are concerned, and also most needy according to the okay. Skip on to the next one. Just wanted to kind of go through some attendance numbers. Attendance is up. I will tell you that part of our discussions as we are designing the templates for SIPs to next year have some attendance targets and goals to have higher improvements in what you see on here. We are up a good percentage point from this point last year. I will tell you, I'm not that impressed. I think we can do better. But I think we can do better because we will have a plan and set of goal and target on the front end and make sure that we're maintaining that particular target. So as you see, some of our elementary schools like Mitchell at 95%, Walker at 94%, we should have more schools in that area and competing. I would say you may do a little higher than that. That's what we have to do. But in order to do that, we have to actually set targets. And we're going to do that through the school improvement process next year. From the beginning and making sure that we monitor those targets consistently at the school level as well as the district level. And lastly, we'll give a more comprehensive breakdown of discipline at our next meeting, but I wanted to kind of highlight concerning bullying complaints. They're down by 2/3 this point last year. So last year we're at 94 and this year we're at 39 incidents. And all of those bullying incidents would generally either go through a Title IX investigation or do a normal school investigation, depending on the specifics of it. But it's good to see that, one, that numbers are down, but two, that we have systems in place to accurately and efficiently evaluate a situation and determine what our next courses are for that problem. I'll pause for any questions or comments.
I have one question regarding the attendance and do we have any data on the students that are not in the categories that we would want to see them in as far as their reading and math? And how many days they've missed in our school district? Because we do know that there's a direct correlation between actually attending school and then being able to
So,
take a test.
Yeah.
So do we have that? I mean, I understand in some instances it may be identifiable. We won't be able to show those numbers, but it'd be good, I think. I'm not saying right now we have to have it, but maybe the next time we present this, we can maybe take a subset of that data and say of the students that are in the lower two categories, you know, X% have missed this number of days of school or more. Because I think that's a telling story about this. It's not about whether they're getting a poor education or not able to learn while they're here. It's just, are they actually here to get that education? And I think that's really an important part when we look at this numbers and to keep that in mind. So if we can look at that moving forward, or in the next time we kind of look at this, I think it'd be great.
sure, attendance is a direct result of some of these with the new dashboard that we're getting ready to launch. That's going to be at the fingertips for our teachers and our administrators to if you look at a kid and look at if the kid has missed so many days and, you know, do a search and say, okay, who's missed more than 10%, that'll populate. And you click on that kid and all that kid's data is on the show. So we're trying to create systems that allow for data to be quickly assessed and then know what to do with that data when you get it. So yeah, we can definitely get that to you. Mr. Becker, yeah.
I was gonna be the same kind of thing. I was thinking about the panorama as the kind of catch-all where we're gonna be able to see those kind of crossover up the dashboard. I kind of
So
forgot about.
Panorama doesn't do the things that the Wise Dash Local is gonna do.
Okay.
Wise Dash Local gets into all of the academic data of the kid. And it then gets the attendance data, gets the discipline data. So it really breaks it down a little bit more and get deeper. Panorama really focuses on more of the SEL components. But Panorama may have some components of it, but we're not using it that way. Wise Dash Local is just gonna be, it's a click. If we were planning to kind of give you a snippet tonight, but we know we have a pretty robust agenda tonight, so we said we'll delay that, but we do have that on the agenda to do for next meeting.
And I will say in the meantime, in our conversations with principals, like they will tell you, I know this student and I know that they've missed this many days and it's because, and we've done these things, right? So they're really in the weeds with students and exactly
Right.
to your point. Students who are unfortunately chronically truant, that's exactly the correlation that we would expect to see, right? So it's really like all those layers of support around what the family needs. We can get them in the building as consistently as possible.
And during the instructional rounds, when they're showing their data, I often ask, do you know that those kids? In other words, if you're saying kids are in this category, do you know those kids and do your teachers know those kids? Because those are the kids we should have, I don't like to use the term IEP for, but we should have an IEP, some type of individualized supports for these particular kids because they're tiering. And they're tiering for various reasons, but we have to understand what the needs of those kids are.
All right, thank you very much. So now we'll move on to the petition to alter school district boundaries. So I believe we have some individuals here for that presentation. Presentation, I believe, is on that computer there that you guys supplied. Great, it's coming to help with that. So if someone wants to run your presentation over here.
But chance to have a vote to that? I can get one for you, yeah. Space bar accordingly.
I don't know. Good.
Yes.
So we give the insider board members who will hold their questions to the end.
Oh, sorry. All good. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. Uh-huh.
might have to squint to read some of that on the font size on the TV, but I'll do my best. So members of the board, thank you for the time and opportunity to present my case. This is our petition to detach from the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. Through this presentation, I'm going to go over a very high level 7 factors that are determined or need to be considered when reorganizing the school district for Wisconsin statutes. One being the overall location of the residents compared to the actual school facilities, the educational needs of the children that are in the residing and affected school districts, the testimony of written statements filed by the residents for the affected school districts, the estimated fiscal effect, whether the proposed reorganization will make any part of the school's district's territories non-contiguous, socioeconomic level and racial composition of the pupils who reside or will reside in territories, and any referendums held under section 117.10. Factor number 1, just going through the estimated time travel. Morning commutes, afternoon commutes, obviously tied together. 30% reduction in commute time from the residents that are in this particular petition. One exception just being the Hoover Elementary School that's in the actual subdivision itself. Other than that, all these schools are closer and less commute time for the New Berlin district opposed to the West Dallas, West Milwaukee. Factor 2, the educational needs of all children residing in the affected school districts. The educational programs currently offered by each affected school district, the ability and commitments of each school district to meet those needs and continue to offer those educational programs. Next 4 slides kind of have a very high overview of test results for New Berlin compared to West Dallas, Milwaukee. And, it's not meant to be super critical by any means, but it does show that compared to states average, the New Berlin does overall have higher scores in measures of proficiency in reading and mathematics. So this is more meant to say that the resources available in the other school district, they are able to accommodate additional pupils if needed. Factor 3 for testimonials. So there's only 2 homes in this petition. 100% of the homeowners and electors in the territories have signed the petition to detach. Overall concerns, obviously the schools in West Dallas and West Milwaukee do have lower performance overall compared to New Berlin. There has been a history of poor management of financial funds for the West Dallas, Milwaukee. And the territories in this petition are all part of Waukesha County, not Milwaukee County. Obviously, school taxes is one part of our taxes, but there's other public works that are utilized more in Waukesha than Milwaukee that the taxpayers are going to make use of. Factor 4, the estimated fiscal effort of proposed reorganization of the affected school districts, including the effect of the portion of assets and liabilities. Right now, we're saying that there's no impact to the states as there's no children that are attending their schools in these households right now. So there's not going to be any impact to that. And right now, overall, it should be negligible to the funds, the entire system, because West Dallas, Milwaukee is I believe it's the 2nd largest school district in Milwaukee County and the 11th in the state overall. So the 2 homes are rather negligible overall. So factor 5, whether the proposed reorganization will make any part of the school district's territories non-contiguous. 2 homes, well, the home that in these they are adjacent to the newly joined New Berlin school district homes in New Berlin. So there's not going to be an issue with that. And the factor 6, the socioeconomic and racial composition of the pupils who will reside in the territory proposed to be detached from one school district, be attached to the adjoining school district, and the territory proposed to be included in a new district. So basically, there's not going to be any immediate socioeconomic level or racial composition changes to this because once again, there's no students attending schools in either of these households.
And factor 7 is pretty much not applicable in this particular case because there's not going to be a school district being dissolved. So thank you for your time. Any questions?
Yes, I do have some questions. On slides 4 and 5. Regarding the travel time,
Yes,
how did you estimate the travel time?
that is Google directions from the primary residence in the petition to each individual one of these schools.
Mhm.
And it's averaged across, I think it's 10-minute intervals from when the kids are likely to leave school and return from. And like I said, they're all shorter distance with the exception of that Hoover Elementary.
So, can you tell me why from the morning to the afternoon, the distance changes?
Oh, my data gatherer over there. So as the time changes, we're talking Google directions here. So it's just having a less traffic route potentially.
Okay. And is there a reason why there's only 2 schools from the New Berlin School District included, but there are 5, one of which is closed from the West Southwest Milwaukee School District? Lane Intermediate hasn't closed at the end of last school year.
It must not have been reflected on immediate Google searches, so that's a clerical error.
Okay. So if you actually take that into account and instead of looking at Central High School, which if any residents in your properties attend in our district high school, they would be going to Nathan Hale. If you actually remove the Lane and Nathan Hale from that calculation, it actually reduces the miles to 2.07 average versus 2.35 for New Berlin schools. And if you look at the average travel time, it actually reduces it to 6.33 for West Southwest Milwaukee schools versus 6.5 for the New Berlin schools. So I think it's an important thing to note here, looking at apples to apples comparisons and actually looking at the true travel times that someone living in your 2 residences would be encountering. And that's across all those different 10-minute increments that you're looking at for both. That's for morning and for afternoon. It goes from 8.8 to 7 for West Southwest Milwaukee versus 6 for the afternoon travel. But again, I do have questions regarding the different route options that you're taking, because as someone who lives very close to Sunny Slope where both those schools are located on, I know during that time of day, it is quite busy there, especially during dismissal at Ike. The other question that I had was regarding you mentioned that there would not be an island or not contiguous because of the other school district petition that had been appealed through DPI and is currently under appeal by us. You realize that if you were successful in our appeal, then if this were approved, you would be an island.
Yes, I do.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
So this is definitely contingent on the other appeal process.
The result of that one, yes. Ms. Kaiser?
Hi, on factor 3, you listed poorly managed resources. We have a Moody's AA2 high grade. We have an exceptional credit rate for its district. We also have, as of April 2024, so the next 2 months, all of our debt is paid off. So it's not really a factor of poorly managed. We've actually been extremely conservative in building back our resources. So we actually are an extremely high rating right now for our financial statements.
Sure. If you want to take that particular snapshot, but it is worth mentioning that is present day, not necessarily reflective of how you got to where you are today.
Most of this board was not there during those decisions, meaning we have made the factor and the change to move us forward, which is a pretty good leadership, I believe, for our district at this time and over the last 7-8 years. You also mentioned several times that there are no children affected by this.
Immediately, no children, no.
How long have you lived in your home?
Well, 4 years approximately.
Okay, so you moved into knowing our district.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Keller?
I just have one thing on factor 4. It talks about how the detachment of 2 homes from the property should have very little effect on the mill rate for residents and property owners. Yeah, if you look at it in a vacuum, that's correct. But to your point, this is kind of after the petition from last year, which is currently being appealed.
Yes.
And as we see, there's what appears to be a snowball effect, which could continue if you were to be granted this as well. And I worry about how that impacts the rest of the stakeholders and taxpayers within our district.
Sure. And we need to also take account the opinions and thoughts of the tax holders that are on the current petition and the previous petitions.
I understand that, although all of those individuals bought those properties knowing it was part of the school district.
Yes,
So that's where my loyalty lies, is to those individuals who are part of this district and making the decisions that are best for all of them.
Other questions? Okay. So we don't take action on it tonight, then we take action at the next regular board meeting for this, but thank you very much for that. And then I believe your presentation will be made publicly available after the meeting is completed. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time and consideration.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 8, our public comments for this evening. So there is currently no one signed up for public comments. If there's anyone in Zoom who would like to sign up, there should be a link in the chat. I will wait 15 seconds in case anyone has been sitting this whole time and has decided they would like to sign up for public comments. All right, seeing none, I will close public comments at this time. Move on to item 9, our board reports for this evening, starting with 9.1, review of our calendar. So today is February 12th. We have a regular Board of Education meeting. We have a financial stability and efficiency workshop, referendum 2024, workshop number 3. And then immediately following, we have a closed session. Then Monday, February 19th, 6 p.m., we have our college career readiness workshops, guaranteed and viable curriculum, and achievement gap reduction. On Monday, February 26th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting. And then we have a financial stability and efficiency workshop, current pupil count, 24-25 enrollment projections, estimate revenue limit calculations, and preliminary budget projections. Then Monday, March 11th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting and a college and career readiness workshop, student representatives on school board, human growth and development, and gifted and talented programs. Moving on to 9.2, our board committee reports. So we have one this evening, college and career readiness, Ms. Steele.
Didn't know I would be, but I have something. All right. So the life readiness, committee met tonight. The one thing we discussed on the agenda was the, GCT program plan. So actually we'll be changing the name from GCT to GT, so gifted, talented, and that's just to align with DPI's language. So we're currently there in the plan. They developed an extensive program plan. It will include policies and processes. It will be board approved. And then of course, all the information will be available on the website for parents to look at. We will have a board workshop on it next month. And then just briefly, so it's going to have multiple criteria for identification of DT students, including testing and referrals. And then the areas of gifted identification will include general intellectual, specific academic areas, creativity, leadership, and visual and performing arts. And that is all we discussed tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Steele regarding her report? I know I'm looking forward to the workshop in March to be able to learn more about that and where we landed, because I know that we have been working long and hard on getting something in place for this. So I'm excited to see where we ended up and what sort of policy that we'll have for the board to consider. Any future agenda items for Ms. Steele's committee? All right, seeing none. Move on to 9.3, board member reports of community events. Any community events members attended like to report on? Mr. Sikich.
I would like to give a shout out to Brianne and her staff at Wilson. They invited me over for their chili competition. I didn't think you could make chili that many different ways. but it was excellent. The staff looked like that was really kind of a pick-me-up for them. So just want to thank them. It was a lot of fun and very good. And then also I had the opportunity to, this past Friday night, to attend Nathan Hale's athletic Hall of Fame.
Mm.
I had a Coach George Switlowski. First year he came to Hale, I was a senior on that team. Then I ended up graduating from Hale and then coaching there for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I got to get there to honor him for that, because he was coaching there for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
It's
Absolutely.
a long run.
Yeah. Is that all, Mr. Sikich?
That is it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Ms. Kaiser?
Because we won't have a meeting in between, February 22nd through 25th, the theater is putting on the Phantom Toll Booth Junior. I believe it's at West Milwaukee School, so it should be, buy your tickets at WAWM Theater. It should be a really good time.
Absolutely, yes. Our theater productions are well attended and are very impressive for anyone who's attended. So if you haven't, please take the time to do so because you won't regret it. Ms. Steele?
I had to think it's been such a long time since we had a
2
meeting.
weeks.
I know. I wasn't able to go to the Hall of Fame dinner, but I actually went to the Hale, the boys basketball game Friday night. It was really cool because first of all, our pep band, my son's in the pep band, and I always love listening to them. They did great, and just watching the energy and the athletes, and then they also presented the 5 athletes that were inducted into the Nathan Hall Athletic Hall of Fame, and so it was just that really cool. Got to see Coach Switlowski. It was really cool, and everyone was clapping and cheering for him. So it was just a really nice event, and just kind of seeing. I always love how this, when we see the band supporting, athletics and vice versa. It's just cool.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anyone else like to report any events they attended? All right, well, we have more coming up, as we know, so I'm sure we'll have a lot more at our next meeting. All right, so 9.4 other updates and information items. I don't have anything of note to mention at this point in time, so we'll move on to our consent agenda for this evening. Starting with 10.1, approval of minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on January 22nd. 10.2, our employment summary. 10.3, supplementary contracts. 10.4, approval to issue 24-25 regular teacher contracts to eligible teachers. And 10.5, approval to issue preliminary non-renewal notices to teachers. Does anyone need anything separated out?
Move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, can we refuse someone's retirement?
I don't think she would appreciate it.
No, we love you.
You are allowed to do what you think is best.
Yeah. Go ahead, Deb.
All right, so we have a
Approve.
move to approve.
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right.
I want to say
Passes.
congratulations to Suzette on your retirement, and also
Thank
to
you.
Carolyn Hahn, who was just our new director.
Be our
Yes,
Director of Communication.
Congratulations, Suzette.
thank you very much.
From experience, I know that every day she gets closer to retirement, the smile gets a little bigger.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so move on to our action items this evening, 11.1. High school international travel to West Africa, March 2025, and New Zealand, June 2026.
I'm coming to that one.
You're welcome.
Uh-oh,
Hello. It's nice to see you again.
nice to see you as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we're very excited about the possibilities for the next couple of years for the students of the West Milwaukee School District. And we have 2 possibilities. One is to go to Senegal. We've sort of been alternating France and Senegal over the last couple of years. And we're going to do Senegal again in 2025. And it's a wonderful opportunity for the kids to be exposed to a lot they haven't been exposed to before. And hands-on living this new reality is really important for them and their growth and self-awareness and global connections and global awareness. And it's neat because this program that World Strides offers is very much focused on the experiential learning aspects of the trip. So it's not just a tourist, here I am, there I go, da-di-da-di-da. It's not like that, but it's giving them a chance to really get involved in their experiences. They're like service learning projects. And it's a total of $4,790, which is why we start now so that they can start fundraising and saving. And that's why we find that the further out we can start saving for the trips, the better ahead the kids can come through with it. And then New Zealand, because it's so far, it's not doable over spring break because Senegal is over spring break. So New Zealand would be 2026 in the summer. And that's an amazing opportunity. And it's not language based like our France and Senegal had been, but this is more wide world, global based. And everyone's been really excited. One of our kids and his mom who had gone with us on the France trip are like, my mom wants to know about New Zealand. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens, you know, but I think they're both amazing opportunities for our kids, for anyone in our community who would like to go and be involved. And the New Zealand trip is, let me see how much that one is. That one is 5,406, which is not bad given how these programs include everything. And we're talking about so far for the New Zealand trip. You know, it's a really long trip. But the same thing where we want to start early so that the fundraising and things can happen so that it can be a possibility for kids in our community. And I just really like World Strides because if you look in the back of the materials that I've given you, they really emphasize the elements that are included. So like they talk about ACTFL, which is the real language base. And then they talk about the National Geography Standards, talk about NCSS National Curriculum Standards for Social Studies. And they show how the trips align with these different standards. So that's why it's really neat. So it's a really deep and connecting experience for the kids. So I'm asking if we could do these trips again.
I was just noticing that there's a thing here that says up to 3 college credits or high school.
Oh, yeah,
credits.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah. George Mason University, which is a really nice university, they have the opportunity to earn college credit by going on the trip and then doing an online class afterwards. They're just able to earn the credit.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Well, I think that, you know, traveling is something that can change people's worldview. And I
Absolutely.
think that that's something that, especially when you're in a urban suburban environment like we are, sometimes it's very, you're very kind of isolated sometimes within that kind of worldview. So giving people the opportunity to travel in a organized, educational and safe fashion, I think is a great opportunity that we can give our students. So I'm always excited when you bring forward trips because I always hear such great responses from those who are able to attend them. And so I thank you again for going through the effort to get these trips organized. So these are opportunities we have for our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
To approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, that passes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so
Have
much.
fun.
Thank you. And if you want to come along, just check out, we'll be getting information out soon.
Yeah.
Come with you.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have to go make some Mardi Gras cakes for tomorrow.
All right, let's move on to 11.2, approval of the 22-23 audit report. Mr. Norris.
All right, thank you everyone this evening. So as an extension of the January 22nd workshop with Michelle Walter, the senior analyst at Baker Tilly, part of the audit is a formal approval of the Board of Education to certify the financial statements from the prior year. And so really nothing new, no new information, just kind of a recap of that conversation with Michelle Walter, and then kind of an overview. So the auditors, Baker Tilly, they analyze our financial statements, they present a fair and in all material respects, the respective financial positions of each of the governmental activities, each major fund and the aggregate fund information in the district as of June 30th of 2023. So it kind of encompasses the whole 2022-2023 school year. The auditors issue, which is the highest level of opinion, is called the unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion they can provide on our financial statement. So this year, as they denoted, we had one material finding or one unmaterial finding, which that they prepare our financial statements. And that's merely a cost issue. It's cheaper for them to prepare them externally than it is for us internally, and nearly every school district in the state of Wisconsin does that. So at this point, I would pause and look for your recommendation to approve those, to approve the audited financial statements for the 2022-2023 school year.
Any questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Move on to 11.3, our transportation contract extension. Mr. Norris and Ms. Bergman.
Quick, one second. Yeah, that was a quick one. So I will kick this off and then turn it over to Connie to kind of walk us through kind of the background and timeline and kind of leading us up to this evening before I jump back in on the financial pieces of kind of where we were and where we're at today. So with that, kind of the timeline for the recap, we wanted to give you guys a bit of an overview because it's been since October, I believe, since we were here last to discuss with Mr. Shore, the RFP process and kind of what the initial responses we got in terms of both services, financially, different districts, comparables, et cetera. So Connie will go through the transportation fact sheet, kind of an overview of who do we service, how many kids, how many buses, et cetera, what the goals are of the contract, history with First Student, our current contract. I'll talk about pricing and district comparables, the negotiation process. Connie will talk about a great feature called First View that First Student is now offering, and then kind of look at next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Connie to talk through the timeline of the RFP process.
So we started this process back in August, when we distributed our RFP to the bus contractors. They were able to ask us questions, and then we were able to answer their questions up until in September. So then they submitted their completed RFPs due back to us by the end of September. And then we were able to kind of go back to them and set up interviews if we wanted. And then we had our closed session with you in October. And so that was able to give us a little more information of where we wanted to go. And then we've been in negotiations with them up until January. And so that brings us to this February 12th meeting tonight, and hopefully see where we're going next. Some information and facts about our West Dallas facts. We currently have 2,492 students who are eligible for transportation. We have a fall ridership and a spring ridership. During our fall ridership, 1,383 students are riding the bus when we did the September 13th ridership count. And then our second ridership is in the spring, and that's scheduled for March 5th through the 7th. We have 21 regular education students that are regular education buses. So when you see on the contract type C, that is the full-size bus. And they service 11 schools. We have 17 special education buses that service all 15 schools. And then we have 2 wheelchair left buses. Out of 21 regular education buses, they all do the first run, then 16 of them do a second run, and then we have 1 that does a third run. And that's that midday run that they service for doctors. And then with the special education buses, all 17 do a first run, they have a 16 do a second run, and then again, 1 does that midday run. The average time for secondary is from a student getting on the bus till getting to their school is about 20 minutes. And then for elementary, it's about 15 minutes, and we are currently working with the buses to make sure that they are flexible and working on making sure students are rerouted and using the best time possible. So our goals for this contract is making sure that we're providing efficient, reliable transportation for all students to get to and from school, allowing students equitable access and removing any barriers, establishing a positive relationship, not with just students, but also with the family and the provider. Because oftentimes a parent will have a problem in the morning, they'll call the bus company or they'll call the school. So we want to make sure that that communication is open and accessible for everyone. Providing parents with real-time updates for their child's bus and departure. And I'll talk about that later with First View. And then strive to manage transportation services within the budget constraints to optimize routes so that we can be as effective with transportation as possible. And then ensuring transportation services are accessible to all students who qualify for transportation. A little history with First Student. Our first contract with First Student actually goes back 29 years ago. And I got that information with the help of Suzette doing a little digging beyond the electronic board books. So it was quite a while ago. It was signed in 1995. And then our most recent contracts were in 2016 and 2020. And then we signed a contract in 2020, which included a 20% payment for COVID-19 virtual days. And then our most recent contract, which we're coming to the end of, we had a 2021 renewal increase of 2.5%. In 21-22, we did an increase of 4%. In 22-23, we did 4%. And then 23-24, we did an increase of 3%. And so that's a contract that's coming to an end June 30th. And so that's why we brought this information here tonight for the next contract.
So that kind of gets us kind of a background of where we've been, but also, you know, kind of a sense of kind of our current contract we're working off of. So the initial offer first student gave, you can kind of see I broke it down in price, buses, staffing, training, and driver wages. So the main focus here, we know all of the other elements beyond first, which Connie will talk about in a minute. That's a new element, is price, right? Overall, about 60% of our buses are regular education. As Connie mentioned, 21 versus 17, 40% is the 17. So the main increase first student was looking for was both in regular education and in special education, bringing them both up to the current, paying the exact same per bus. So currently we have a different rate for special education buses versus regular education buses. And that goes back to 2016 when a smaller bus costs less than a larger bus. And now that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So you can see the first offer we received was a net increase, assuming both the regular ed and the special ed offer of about 50.5% in 1 year. So that's certainly a sizable increase. Subsequent years was 4.5%, which is more tied to like a standard inflation percentage across, you know, the past 5 years. Where we kind of ended with them was trying to do two things per your direction in October. One was to try to elicit obviously the best deal possible from a financial perspective across the first couple of years, and then trying to I guess extend that contract into as many years as possible. So you can see here on the left that 50% is about 48% there. Sorry, that must have been a typo. It's 50%. And then that was the first year. The final offer we received, they took the 50% in year one and broke that up and lowered that to 39% over 2 years. So that's 24-25, 25-26. You can see the breakdown of regular ed versus special education. Over the first 2 years, that percentage came substantially down, which is good to see. And then over the next 6 years, 4.5% increases across that band. So what does that actually mean in terms of actual dollar amounts? So in the first year, we would see about if our current, and I say this with a caveat, with our current services had no changes to it. And I want to preface and kind of go back to some of the comments Connie made in a minute, but I'll go through this first and kind of go back to explain a little bit about what we intend to do, right? So our first year, you can see about $400,000 of increase of actual costs. That's broken between Fund 27 and Fund 10, right? And then the next year would be 715,000. So each year, as Connie mentioned, we have a ridership count that happens in the fall and in the spring. So every year, any student who's eligible gets routed, and then we route students based upon grade bands at, you know, high school as at 50%. We fill the buses on a 50% ridership rate. And then the first 2 weeks of school is the shuffling of the deck. Hey, we're actually having more than 50% of the kids that are eligible ride. So we have to adjust stops, and we do that. That's why for the first month, there's like no changes to transportation. So we can kind of make sure that's right sized. So once that kind of settles, then we can look at how do we consolidate runs. This is a normal standard practice we do. Last year, we added 3 buses with the consolidation of Madison and Lane. And now this year we're looking at, well, where are the push points for transportation? Can we consolidate runs? Can we not, et cetera? So for every run that's consolidated is around $60,000 of savings. So every year, give or take, we can add or subtract if there's more riders or less. So Connie and I've been working, we already have one that we've consolidated for the school year. So initially this is already down to 335,000. So we're trying to work through those things. We also can look at ridership time. Connie mentioned that's about 20 minutes for the secondary, 15 minutes of the high school. The simple solution is to have students be dropped off a little bit earlier at school and add a run to that bus. It comes at no extra cost to the bus, right? So there's options to do this. The goal here is to get the next couple of years around 250,000 per year. That's the goal. If you reduce one in 1 year, it's coming off the following year. So that's obviously the goal. We'll get into budgeting, you know, as Noah mentioned, the calendar here in about 2 weeks to talk through that a little bit. But I think this is, at least next year, puts us in a much better position to work through this budget dilemma, as I would have called it, because when we met 3 months ago, this number was about over $1 million in 1 year. So that's certainly very difficult to manage in one fiscal year. And then, getting through the next 2 years really obviously is the goal. And then after that, these are pretty normal within the cycle of our budget, in my opinion. Increases 3 to 5%. We work outside that with a lot of other things, health insurance. If we could get 4.5% increase in health insurance guaranteed for 8 years, where do I sign? Things like that. But the bigger piece I want to mention, and this is not new to certainly anyone here tonight, is having knowns in school finances is a big deal. And so knowing exactly what you're going to pay, how much you're going to pay, and when you're going to have to pay it, and especially having the ability to reduce it if need be within a degree, is really important for like the health and stability of our organization. And that's why every 2 years it causes such stress in the organization when the state legislature can't come to an agreement with the governor on the biennial budget. So to me, if anything, I am glad that your direction 3 months ago was trying to elicit a long-term deal, because it's good for us and good for them, right? So just wanted to make comment of that. I think overall that's really good to see. So just want to go through some district comparables. So you can see on the left here is for student pricing, 23-24. You can see the amounts, $307 we pay currently for regular education transportation, just under $267 for special education. Those two numbers would both jump to $328. That's why the special ed difference is higher than the regular education difference, because the numbers would be kind of I guess leveled out. And then they're moving forward. You can see the increases that I mentioned. The one thing I want to reference is we do, in terms of first student in district comparables, we are, even with this contract, paying less than other school districts are as well. So Madison, their contract renewal is $436. You might ask, well, how is that possible? Well, the one thing that we have going for us is that our depot is right in West Milwaukee's neighborhood. It's like in our district. So they call it dead time in the bus industry. So when the drivers get to work to pick up from the moment they leave the depot to pick up the first kid, it's 6 minutes, 5 minutes. Well, in Madison, it might be 35. So like other factors like that allow it to be cheaper for us, but cheaper for them. So I'm glad to see that, because that is a reality. That is we are one of the very few districts that of our size that has that luxury of having a depot that can service the whole district, essentially in its neighborhood. So other organizations, you can see the prices have come down a little bit. Elmbrook is a little bit cheaper than First Student. Elmbrook has a lot of issues going on with transportation. I know we shared that last time in October. That's not new. I think those issues are still going on. Connie fills me in, as her kids used to go there, so she hears a lot about that too. But it's just kind of where things are at. So that's just kind of a nice glance of the region. And then Waukesha is currently in a bid. They're significantly below where we were. So I know I've spoken with their finance director, and they're getting quotes, almost 60-70%, and that's just to get them up to like this. So they're looking at similar options there. So yeah. With that, I'll turn to Connie to talk about First View as kind of an added feature as part of the negotiation, which is something I think our families have been asking for, which is good to hear, I think. So I'll let Connie talk a little bit about that.
So First View is a two-part system. The first part is District View, and that's something that we would have up here. And I know a lot of you have spoke to you, called me about, oh, did this bus get show up? Joe's laughing. He's like, Joe. So this part would be what's up here at the district. So instead of me, when a parent or somebody calls me and says, did this bus show up? Someone show up? Now I'll be able to log on and I'll be able to see where every single bus is in real time. So I'll be able to say Route 83, I'll be able to drill down, I'll be able to see exactly where they are. It's a web-based program and I can monitor it in real time. So for every single bus on every single street in our district. So that's really nice. And if for just because parents are like, oh, I can't find the bus didn't come. Where is it? What's going on? And then we'll be able to also send out messages if a bus is running late in real time. So that's really nice feature to give our parents that point of view and just be able to like be in communication. The second part of this is called, Parent View. Parent View is an app-based system where parents can will get a code. It's linked to their students and they can use it for multiple schools, multiple kids, and they will be able to know exactly where their child's bus is. And this is helpful for parents because they can then see for like our K4 kid, when the bus is gonna be pulling up. Or in the morning when it's cold outside and they don't want to send the kid out 10 minutes prior, they can actually see when the bus is pulling up. So now it's not that 10-minute window of, we'll be out there 10 to 15 minutes before or 10 to 15 minutes, late. They can actually watch on the phone when Route 83 is pulling up, 5 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. Okay, Mr. Little Aaron can run out there right away and be out at the bus. So this is a real-time app that lets parents know a distance locator to their house.
It's a little archaic to say, but so currently the system is a parent calls, they say to Connie or Maria or anyone in our office, hey, my kid's bus didn't come. So you might think, well, what happens now? Right. So kid's bus didn't come. They obviously work through getting their kid to school. Parents probably mad still, but like kid's safe. Okay. So Connie has to call the bus company. The bus company has a ping system. Anytime the door opens, it drops a ping on a map. And so we go, well, it only will ping if they actually stop and open the door. So if the bus like goes by my house and doesn't see my kids, it didn't stop, they might go, oh, you didn't have them out in time. So it's constantly this like, is the parent saying this or is the right? So now it's not like, now we can just see in real time where they are. Did they pass? Oh, they did pass. Were you not out front? I mean, we can still have those conversations. So it's good to see this happening because the MCTS systems had this for 15 years.
Mhm.
I mean, you can go to a bus stop today and type in the number and I'll tell you where the bus is like on a map. So this isn't like groundbreaking technology, but I'm glad that they're finally offering it to districts because it's been something we've been asking. Our parents ask us all the time. So
Is this something that like kids who have phones, you'd be able to put the app on their phone so they could see? Because sometimes parents are at work, right? And the kid's supposed to get on the bus.
So we have our second training with the company in 3 weeks, and I'll be able to find that out. So when we first initially met with them and
I would think, but I don't know.
it
If
was
you only
more
get
just
one
addressed,
code
but I'll
or
find
two
that out.
codes, or I don't know how it works. Yeah, if there's a limitation, I understand each family might get a code, but is there a limitation to how people can use that code to access it?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
only so many people logged in per time or something like that? So I could see it for kids like
Right.
middle and secondary kids who are taking the bus for the same thing. Oh crap, the bus is gonna be here in 2 minutes. I better get out there.
Right.
Or
yeah,
instead of waiting out when it's -4 outside
Absolutely.
for extra time, hey, I can know when I get, I ran, they might miss us now because they're waiting till the last minute, but again, that's on them, not on us at least. But if they have that ability, I think that would be helpful for them too.
Right.
like how many Netflix logins do you get? That's what
Right.
you're asking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
exactly.
yeah. I will find out that information at our next meeting.
I mean, it's a good tool regardless, but I'm just trying to think of
Yeah.
Yeah.
how it could be.
A lot of parents are gone in the morning and their high school kid is getting themselves on the
And
bus.
they're assuming it like when one bus didn't come, it was really cold and
Yeah.
it was like an hour late or something for some reason, like a parent at work is like, well, if my little kid was out there, like, how would they know?
Mhm.
And so I think it would be helpful because then they could know, oh geez, the bus is 30 minutes late. I better find another way to be able to get the
Yeah.
kid to school.
And pending how the interface works, we'll create like one pagers and it'll get rolled out much more seamlessly in future years with a parent enrolls. You're eligible for busing. Oh, here's this. Please, you can download it right now. We'll help you do it. Like we'll be able to do that now. The upfront system lift is going to be a little bit harder it'll probably go out when we send out the postcards translation. Here's your route information. Here's how you log in. Here's an optional session. Here's a video. We'll have to work through that. So it'll,
Yeah, we really
know.
talked about like having to put together a brochure to help parents kind of go through and logging in, downloading the app, rolling that whole piece out with them.
I was just gonna say, I would imagine there'd have to be a way for the kid to do it, the kids to do it too, just because. Assuming there's two parents, right?
Yeah.
Each parent would probably want it on their app, because one might be responsible for morning, one might be responsible for night and kind of see when the kids get home. So the only question would be, is there a max? Like how many people know
How many
that they
people
have
can use the code?
access?
I'm sure there is. This is probably a very common question that people get. Yeah. So with that, I guess our recommendation is that we feel like this is a great meeting in the middle, I think, with first student in terms of price, in terms of services, long-term extension. As I said before, it offers us 8 years of known in terms of financial expenses and costs. To me, in my opinion, when I think about vendors, I think about how many kids does it service every day and how many lives does it impact. And to me, transportation is one of those things, in my opinion, that if you don't hear anything about, it's because nothing bad happened, right? And you only hear about it when something bad happens. So on a day-to-day basis, our buses come, we have really reliable drivers. They're the same mostly every year. We have a good relationship and good systems in place with them. to me, my recommendation would be to approve this. I think this is a great opportunity for us to extend an already good service we have with an organization. So with that, we'd pause for questions.
I have one question, something that someone asked me. Do we have to provide busing for our students?
So we are like required by the state to offer any student who lives 2 or more miles from school or crosses a hazard to school, some type of transportation, whether that's an arrangement or that is physical transportation. The only exception to that is if a student has an individual disability that doesn't allow them to get to school similar to their same age peers. So student with an IEP, we're required to transport them, right? Similarly, you can develop contracts. So like you've probably heard in the news, Milwaukee has parents being paid to take kids to school because that's their contract to do that. So the answer to that is in some fashion, yes, we're required to do that. And that's also something that is a restriction on our budget because we're spending, north of $2 million a year on transportation in between special education and regular education, where other districts who are all neighborhoods, smaller proximity, they aren't spending anything or very minimal, and we receive cents on the dollar for transportation. It's like that. So I guess that answers the question. No.
Yeah, and I guess in some instances, you don't have to offer it if your school district is included only within the city limits of one municipality. So then it's a decision of the school district whether they want to or not. Obviously, it's not applied to us.
Sure.
But it's something that, again, when you're comparing districts to each other and looking at these costs, we have to do this by law. It's required. And so it's not something we can just decide not to do.
Right.
And so I just wanted to make that point because sometimes like, well, why, people can figure out a different way. It's, do it on their own. No, they can't, not in our school district.
Yeah.
So it's something that, because it is a large expense, that I think it's important for it to just be out there to know, like, this is something that we have to do. It's not a want, right? It's a must.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the board? If not, I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. I want to thank you and your team for the work on that. I know where we started to where we ended up was a big difference.
Yeah.
But that's what we were hoping to hopefully get somewhere close to that, and having that longer time frame will definitely help with budgeting forward. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for your support.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the board now, we're gonna move into our workshop. Do we need a pause or can we roll right into
I
that?
need a pause, but you guys can start if you want.
Actually, we need to set up too. So if you guys don't mind, yeah.
Let's take a 5-minute recess then. We'll set up for our Norris et al.
Perfect. Well, let me just start. Unless Dr. Robbins have any thoughts or things to open up with, I'll jump in and introduce. So Mr. Bill Foster's on my left. He's from School Perceptions. He is a part of the presentation to talk through the documents that I handed out. And then Mr. Ryan Sands from Bray Architects. He's been very instrumental in the planning and the process. So here tonight for questions, comments. This is, I hope, the first portion of the presentation. I'll jump ahead here is to kind of talk about where we've been and kind of what we've been doing and what we've learned. And the second half is I'm hoping to be an authentic workshop, questions for us, comments on the survey. Why does it say this? What could it say? So we'll get into that towards the second half. So I gave them out early, but hoping that you can stay with me for the beginning of this just to kind of go through. I think there's a lot of interesting information to share tonight, and it's been helpful to kind of get this now, having done the engagement sessions, to kind of hear from the community, both like in person and then also in the survey. So looking forward to seeing you guys' thoughts on that this evening too. So kind of an agenda, we want to first hit one, talk about how many districts have already slated to go to referendum in April. I think it's important to talk about that. It's, we'll talk it in more depth. We'll talk through the referendum timeline of how we got here today, kind of what have we been doing, where are we going. We want to highlight our people. Dr. Robinson and I have been talking about, this is about people, and we want to front face that again tonight to kind of give you a sneak peek again of a Faces release that's coming up. Reflect on our goals, talk through the fall engagement sessions, as I mentioned, in-person feedback versus the survey. Talk about where we're going. Mr. Foster has a part of the presentation to talk through the surveys and timelines of that, when that might happen for the spring and the summer, and then talk through what's coming up from a communications perspective. So with that, I just wanted to highlight, this is some of the headlines over the past, 6 to 8 months of districts. So certainly we're not the only ones. that are going to referendum because of the lack of funding in K-12 education. It is widespread and it is record breaking this April. And so I just want you guys to hear that, because I know a lot of times you guys get questions from community members that we don't get here. And it is not anything that we are doing here that's put us in this position. I certainly know you know that, but every district in its own way is experiencing having to go through these pains of either not going or going and figuring out what the right question, the right way is to go. And it's just, our needs are no different here than other districts, right? We're underfunded from the state, and that results in us having to make tough decisions every year in the budget cycle, which at some point hit a road, and that road, I believe, is today. And so we appreciate your support, but want you to know that you're not alone in this, and we're working through this together. So, but for some data to back that up, this spring, there's 91 school districts going to referendum for a total of 100 questions. So that means of the 91, 9 of them are asking 2 questions this April. They can, by state statute, ask 2 questions in a year. It's the most operating referendum questions in one election cycle ever, with 44 non-recurring and 21 recurring, and then 35 capital questions for facility improvements. So what's that look like for non-recurring? Well, it's just over $343 million of questions being asked. And you can see kind of the largest amounts. Beloit's asking a non-recurring for 27 million, De Pere 24, et cetera. And then there's some regional numbers here. Most regional to us, Greendale and South Milwaukee. Other districts that are more southeastern, Platteville, Mauston, Jefferson, Ozaki. Certainly some districts that are local to us, but then also within arm's reach, right? In terms of recurring, so 343 million down to 337 million. So really no difference, right? In terms of the whole state. You can see Milwaukee's asking for 252 million. Of that, 230 is a structural deficit.
Wow.
Okay. I just want to highlight, of the 300, almost 700 million, almost nearly all of these districts are asking to repair structural, to some degree, structural deficits from ESSER dollars, right? We're not in that position. So when Milwaukee, from what I understand, is asking for 250 million, 230 of that is to not offer new programming. It's to keep programming going, right? So that's important to note, especially when you guys get questions and things like that. These amounts aren't always to add, it's to sustain, right? And what we're asking for is an addition to, right? Addition to the budget, right? Not like sustaining what we currently have, which is important. It's a distinct difference, but very important in my opinion. So you can see some regional districts too, a little more arm's reach away. But that's recurring. So that is an operating question that continues for an infinite amount of years. Almost $1 billion in capital questions. So you can see they range, and the reasons range. Some are deferred maintenance, some of those smaller numbers, larger numbers. McGuanago's looking to build a new school, I believe, in their district. So the reasons can vary. But again, this is statewide record breaking for this April. Yep.
And I just want to note that there are other districts that are also planning November referendum like we are. I know for a fact that Whitnall is going to referendum in November. I know for a fact that Oak Creek is also going to referendum in November. So this is just the first wave.
Yeah.
There's more that are waiting for the November election, for the presidential election, to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I agree. That's likely where this will get broken next in 6 months. And I from a number of districts, interesting enough, I kind of asked Barrett, I said, well, why is 91 going to 100, 1.0? So only 9 districts are asking 2. They said a lot are asking in April, and if it fails, asking again in November. You get 2 per year.
Yeah.
So they're taking their chance in April, seeing how it goes, and then they're going to ask something. They're going to change the question, pivot, pulse the community, work through that, lower the amount, whatever that means, to then asking in November. So that made sense to me when I talked to Mike Clark. He goes, that's just what districts are trying to do, right? So, but yeah, that's when those amounts get published in August. I'm sure it'll break this record tonight. So timeline, just kind of a brief overview of the past 6 months or so. So we held both workshops, our first 1 and 2, August and October. Dr. Robinson held listening and learning sessions at every school in that time frame. In November, we invited families the postcard to our fall engagement sessions. We asked questions from the communications. What do you love about our district? What's your hope for our district? Etc. So we've been working through this timeline and hosting fall engagement sessions with the community, trying to learn more from people authentically, hearing out what they think the issues are of the district, engaging with them, hearing from them, but then also trying to get, elicit a different, working towards getting more people engaged and involved. So that's kind of the outreach that's happening across the district. So one of the things we want to talk through and show and highlight tonight is kind of our people. And so this is kind of a sneak peek. This will be released, I think, Carolyn? Couple weeks. Okay. I thought March was the date. So I want to show you guys this video because it's another great example of the people in our district and how much they care in many different ways. So this is Taylor. Let me just play this.
Hi, I'm Taylor Ehrman. I teach business here at West South Central, and then I'm also the varsity cheerleading coach. Cheer is life, as I like to say. So I think it's really important for cheerleaders to be represented as athletes as well. So if they're just cheering on the sidelines, they never really get to show off their true athletic side, because cheer is officially an Olympic sport. So I was like, it is important to take West South Central to the next level and compete so they can really show how hard they work. So when I took over the program, I was like, it's time. Like, they deserve to go out there. They've never had a coach take them to competitions before. So I was like, I'm ready to take on this challenge and grow this program.
Taylor came in to Central a few years ago and has really changed the program. She has made our cheer team a competitive team, and she teaches from basics to, all the competitive, pieces that the cheer team needs.
She preaches the same thing over and over, right? Like, it's positivity. We're going to support each other. Women's sports are important. Girls are awesome. We should continue doing this. And she just does that kind of unapologetically all the time, which I think makes her great for, that role, but also someone to have in the school and to be around our, high school aged females.
The cheer team has definitely been more positive. They're role models in the building. They're students who are considered athletes, and they do both. And they rely on Taylor as a role model and for different things that they need.
So I took them to cheer camp for the first time this summer, and it was amazing having them walk in. They were really nervous because all these other teams have been going for years, and by the end of the camp, you could just see how they changed. They got so much more confident. They were actually playing the games and going in front of other people. So it was really exciting to just see them grow personally and just come out of their shells. So that's my favorite part about being a coach, is watching them improve and really reach their goals. So I came up with a stunt. So stunting is when you lift each other up. So I have one girl go up, she makes a little basketball hoop with her hand, and then the crowd shoots pom-poms into her hoop. So we're really trying to incorporate the crowd this year. We throw a lot of things to them. And it's really awesome when they memorize our cheers and cheer along with us. So it's definitely growing, and it's really cool to see people cheer on the cheerleaders.
If I could describe Taylor in one word, I would describe her as fun. She is so outgoing. She is a bright light, and she is just an amazing person to be around. When she walks into a room, it lights up, and she's a really fun person to be around.
If I could describe her in one word, it would be bubbly. Just because I think that she's always so happy, and obviously a lot more complex than that, but I think when you first meet her, that's the vibe that she brings off.
Hi, I'm Taylor Ehrman.
Okay, I just want to say, I really think that those videos do a great job of humanizing our people. And it's so funny because when we talk about the community and getting people to come to it's about engagement, right? And that's exactly what we want in school. And so when we talk about getting kids involved with things, extracurricular, sports, clubs, a job, when kids are engaged with stuff in school, their school experience is better. And because there's two-way communication and what they need and what they're getting. And same thing what we're trying to do with the community. So it's just great to have people in our schools who, both care about our kids during the day in the classroom, but also after school, and offer a great a great experience for them, on and off the court. So our goals, we kind of been talking about this. So to bring this back, so to tell our own story, the videos like this, humanizing our people and explaining kind of who we are and what we do is really a great effort to do that. We want to invite the community to be part of shaping the future. We'll talk about what that looks like this spring and certainly subsequently in the summer and the fall. Remain aligned with our staff and their needs. Dr. Robinson and myself will be discussing and presenting to all staff next Monday in an optional session for them to hear more about this, what's upcoming. And then we'll also be working through that with principals to have school site visits for their staff meetings, talk about contracts and things like that coming up on the spring and the summer. Re-engage our community around facility needs, inform our community about the work happening in our school, and obviously showcasing our strong and dedicated teaching staff. And if we do all those things, regardless of the referendum, we believe it's a successful pitch of what we're trying to do to inform the community. So really getting into the teeth of the first part before Mr. Foster goes is to talk about what did we learn. So first, I want to start with the questions we asked the community to engage in our activities for each of the fall engagement sessions. So we asked 4 different questions. The first one was, how does school look different today than when you were in school, and how does it look the same? So kind of some of the themes that Carolyn and her team put together that were different were, safety, obviously a lot of the safety things going around the country, active shooter drills, building check-in, locked doors, things like that are very much different today than they were, previously. In our schools, people said more diversity. There's more students with different backgrounds than they had growing up. There's certainly some more expanded AP opportunities for students to gain college credit than they had when they were in school. They used to use actual textbooks. Now they don't, right? That's different. That's certainly something that we all know is different. At the palm of our hand is the access of the world today. It wasn't like that. Technology is different, kind of an extension of that. Getting more projects involved with school is different and sparking interest. Cell phones and internet and quick access to information was different. Kind of the same. Buildings and facilities appear that they did the same many years ago. That was a theme that people said, which is interesting because that's not something we would disagree with. We know it's the same. I think the video that Dr. Robinson showed Jerry, the one of the things he said was this classroom looks the exact same as when I was here. And that's something that we know to be true, but not every person does that has been in the schools, right? The conditions look the same and the classroom layouts are no different today than they were then. So name a positive school memory. Love asking this question to people because it gets them to think back to when they were in school, right? So people said, from a theme perspective, participating in activities and clubs, being part of an athletic team was a big one. Teacher-specific experiences, they reference their favorite teacher or the thing they love to do with that person in school. Some people wrote about before school, they'd go to Mr. Johnson's room and sit there with the physics teacher and, they made hot chocolate on the Bunsen burner. I saw a lady told me this story. It was kind of funny. And lady next to her was in that room with her. It was a funny interaction. I'm like, I can't believe they'd let you do that, but they did. So a whole different, the insurance part of my head goes there. So anyway, school field trips though, building positive relationships with peers and teachers and coaches and feeling like a school is a safe environment. But the theme here is participation, like with people. And school is about people and engaging with people. And I would encourage you to do the same thing as you think about, maybe this question or like your kids or things like that is what makes their experience positive. I think if you asked yourself or them, they would talk about people, right? And I think that's important as we try to tell our story. We're telling with people because people, when they think about school, think about people. And that's the truth, right? This is about people. Anyway, why should we keep doing? What should we keep doing? What is working? Investment in the trades that certainly came up tonight in dialogue, also in the survey. We'll talk about that too. Investment in the arts, showcasing what the district does well. Continues to 3 high schools, recruiting and hiring teachers that are invested in the community. Consistent communication with families, providing teachers with autonomy in the classrooms, visibility, and trying new things in open forum meetings. So having more dialogue. What's your hope for the district? To retain our staff, receive equal state funding, improve or modernize learning facilities, create a better learning environment for current and future students, bigger and brighter school environments. Not sure what that means, but that was something people said. That we start to excel in academics, get back to where we were for the pandemic, competitive pay, staying together, updates, and then some people said they want it to pass. That was good to hear. So that's kind of like informal in the breakout sessions that you guys were able to go. People were saying just comments, let's talk, different dialogues, trying to get people's opinions. So getting kind of to the meat, the 5 questions we sent out, I'll go through each one, and some of them are very straightforward. Others are a little more complex. So we'll talk about that and kind of how we presented what we found today or over the last month. So question 1, would you support an increase in property taxes, school portion to improve facilities? So we had around, this shows about 1,773 people as of Friday at 5. It's about 25 more people have taken it. So Mike ran it today and there wasn't any substantial changes to this. So this is exactly where it landed. So 62%, 1,100 people said they would support that for school facilities. So that's good to see. The overwhelming theme was that almost 1,000 people said they would prefer that facility focus to be district wide, to be felt across all schools. That was pretty consistent with what we thought they'd say, but we asked and that's what they said. So it's good to see too, because we agreed. What were the top priorities? So people were able to select up to 5 selections in this, right? What were your top 5? So across all of them, leaving the percents is the best way to demonstrate that, because I might click security, Joe might click security. Well, it aggregately adds up all the security clicks and gives you a total percentage. So across all of them, I put them kind of in order. And then the not applicable is if someone said they did not support an increase in school facilities, they would select not applicable because they wouldn't support any of the options because they wouldn't support increase, right? So safety and security was the top selection from the community. Right behind that was all facility updates. And not that I know what people were thinking, but from the interactions I had at the engagement session, some people said, well, we trust that you guys know what needs to be fixed most, and that's where we'd support it to go. That's all facility upgrades. It's kind of encompassing of what are the needs that are most pressing. That's in my opinion. HVAC air, excuse me. HVAC air conditioning and HVAC boilers and heating systems were essentially the same percentage, taking third. Tech ed classrooms was almost 30% of people. So I mentioned that in the previous slide. People certainly felt that too. Plumbing, bathroom upgrades were up there. Modernizing interior infrastructure, roofing and windows, then we're getting just down to 20%. And then there were other ones that aren't mentioned here that didn't receive over 10%. So athletics was there. Parking lots, playgrounds didn't really get much traction with the community. And then not applicable was about a quarter of the people. Moving on, would you support increasing teacher salaries to be comparable to neighboring school districts if it meant it increasing your property taxes? So actually a little bit more people would support this than facilities, about 65.3% versus 62. So consistent with the feedback we got last time we went to referendum, people had said verbally, and then I believe in comments that they'd support that. Well, that seems to be true in terms of putting no dollar amount on it, right? Just generically, do you support teachers? Should they get paid more? Would you support that? Generically, most people said they would. I would say overwhelmingly. So that's good to see as well. Then getting into the tax increase. So the way we asked this question was kind of no numbers. What's the amount that you have an appetite for in the community from a monthly perspective on the value of your home? So we wanted to ask people, hey, well, how much of an increase for these two things would you support in your own home per month? What we found was, there we go. So you can see here that if you take into account anyone that voted for, you have to assume if anyone voted for 5, they would support 4, 3, 2, or 1, right? You certainly would support less. You might not support more, right? So what we're looking for is an aggregate 50%. So what option would elicit a 50% or more? Option 3, if you add up, as you can see in orange, I kind of highlighted the box. If you take option 3, option 4, option 5, option 6, option 7, it's about 53%, right? Option 4 is currently where both questions live. And I'll go there in a second. You can see, I want to highlight here, option 4 starts at $5 for every 100,000. We're at 508. So we're like right over the $5 for 100,000 value. So my point by saying that is both questions, we're very close to living in the option 3 land, which is good that we're like on the fringe. So part of what Mr. Foster talked about is how do you tease out, like, it's not 50, maybe it's 45. Where's the support live at? And that's part of what we're trying to do over the next 6 months is take this information and drill it down to the community. Like, you said you'd support 3 or higher. That's this number for the mill rate. Well, that was too much, but what about this, right? Like trying to find out where's the push, the point where people go, yeah, That is an amount I'd support, right? So I just want to like pause here and ask questions. And before I do, I just want to say like this slide may not seem very positive, but I really want to live on this slide because it is very different in a community to have people that authentically support the teachers in this community, this school district that go, I support them, but I'm struggling every month. That's a very different person than someone saying, I don't support them and I'm not going to pay for that. So I think there's a lot of positive, in my opinion, to find here because we have people based on question 1 and 4 that are willing and open to this. They just need to find something that they can actually afford, which is like what I think we're here to do. Right. So I'm just going to pause there for questions.
Can you explain again how you got 53% for number 3? I don't understand that.
Yeah. So if you take option 3
Yeah.
and take 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, that adds up to 53%. Assuming that if someone supports option 7, they'd vote for option 3. If they support 6, they'd vote for option 3. If they support 5 or 4, they would vote down, but not up. Do you follow me, Kristen?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the data wouldn't have been like more answers 2, 3, 4, 5. Because those have most comparable percentage.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at, so if you picked 7 and said, I'd be willing to support 7.
Yeah.
If the district came back and said, well, we're only gonna do 3, you would still support it 3.
Right.
So the same thing,
So the assumption is the ones who are going higher would then. do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like if you supported 2 and we asked 3, you go, well, I can't afford 3. I supported 2.
Yeah, gotcha.
And the thing we didn't tease out is you might go, well, I'll support one of the questions, not the other,
Yeah.
which you could, it'll even further tease, which I think further will help us later to go. Some people that said 2, hey, I really support the teachers. I can't support the facility. Well, that's okay. We have 2 questions, so that's some of the work we'll have to do too, but.
Yeah, so.
Because I don't understand that other people out there don't understand either. So I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're not saying we're gonna do 7. We're saying that
Right, I just want to, where that number came from.
we live around 3.
Yep.
Gotcha.
We're on the border of 3 and 4, really, as far as what we had been talking about. Again,
Yeah.
decisions made, but.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Absolutely. So again, this is kind of how the current, $4 million in an operating referendum and then a $50 million facility over 15 years. Currently, this is how that breaks down. And that's the work we'll work on with Mr. Foster here in a few minutes to figure out how do we find out from the community, what is the appetite with numbers now, amounts, like how does that break down? So we'll talk through that in a few minutes. I guess right now, actually, I got my slides mixed up. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Foster. I think he's going to talk through the timeline and kind of the task, and then we'll jump into kind of the workshop portion of the referendum piece tonight. Floor is yours.
So what I have up is, well, first of all, thanks for having me tonight. We're going to go through the timeline first, and I think it's in your packets.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been working on this actually since, I guess, fall, October 4th. And the goal tonight is not to finalize the survey. The goal tonight is to make sure that the board understands and confirms the strategy. So we're using words, but we're still kind of in the strategy part of this. Then the goal is to finalize the survey basically in 1 month, on March 13th. And then I'll go out for proofing if it's not been proofed yet. And then it'll go to print. It takes about 3 weeks to print and bulk mail these things to get out to every household. And our goal is to have this land after spring break, around April 4th. The mailboxes, with a deadline of April 22nd, it will be emailed to all staff and all parents, in addition to a paper survey to each district household. Then it takes us about 4 weeks to get all the data paper surveys entered, with the goal of being back here on May 20th to say what the survey says. Then the board can then decide in June whether or not there's any appetite for a potential referendum. And then you need to approve a resolution. I think it's actually like August 28th or something like that.
End of August, yeah.
End of August, to get a resolution approved to be on a November ballot. Questions on timeline? All right. So this is right now an 8-page survey. It'll get printed on 2 11 by 17 sheets of paper, make a little booklet. I'll just read the opening letter. This is coming from the entire board as far as, and in addition, Dr. Robinson. So as you're probably aware, West Dallas, West Milwaukee voters did not support a referendum to expand Hale and close Central High School in 2021. While the school board administration acknowledged and respect the community's decision, we must find a way to address two significant challenges. The first is aging buildings. On average, our buildings are more than 75 years old. And many building systems, heating, electrical, plumbing, roofs, etc., have reached or exceeded their service life. The cost to address the building needs would exceed $275 million. It's a lot of money. School funding, the district is forecasting a budget shortfall of nearly $4 million annually over the next 5 years. Currently, the West Dallas, West Milwaukee staff salaries are 5 to 7% below those of neighboring districts. Those are two of the more pressing needs. To help develop a new plan, the district held several community input sessions. Just heard about the results. Participants studied the needs of each building as well as school funding options. The district also sent out a preliminary planning survey. Then we felt it was important to note that high school consolidation is not being considered at this time in bold. The process helped refine the options explored in the survey. So for those people who are saying, oh, they're going to come back and try to pitch us on this high school idea, no, that's not the point here. It's about aging buildings and school funding. Before we move any further, we need to understand the priorities of all taxpayers for this survey. Let me pause there and ask, does that sound like the story you want to tell, or is there, am I missing something?
I'm really glad you bolded. It's not the consolidation. This is not a continuance of the last referendum. This is purely operational and capital.
Yeah, in our planning discussions, I had mentioned that Dr. Robinson, I think, had gotten this question more than me. The people had said, is this to do the high schools again? And I was like, how many times to say it? So we thought having it in here early, in bold, like first thing you see, if you read nothing else,
Yeah.
This is not the high school. So I just, that's what we had talked about and trying to add that in early. So.
Maybe we move the bolded sentence to the first sentence. And we replace. Because we talk about the referendum, and again, the question is how closely and how carefully someone's going to read this. If the first thing that we say is this referendum is not to consolidate high schools. Unlike the referendum in 2021.
Sure.
So they understand this is not what this is about. What this is about are these things.
Right.
So that we're not going back and referring to it later after we've outlined what we want to use it for.
It's like sentence 2 would be that bold sentence. I know what you're thinking.
So I'm thinking maybe if we can work that into the first paragraph somewhere.
Yeah, I think the first sentence I pointed out to expand Hale and close Central High School in 2021. I'm not sure if that's necessary because people only, they generally just stop reading. And then they go back to saying, this is what you said you weren't gonna do, but you're doing it anyway. And that's not what you're saying.
Right.
But that's what I get constantly reminded of.
Yeah.
So I think having that bold up there, very similar to the way Mr. Lee said it, would be more effective.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Put glitter on it.
Can make it flash up close.
I also have some concerns with the juxtaposition of forecasting a budget shortfall of nearly $4 million and our staff are 5 to 7%.
Mhm.
We're only asking for 4 million for that. What we're saying here is 8. So which
Oh, I
is
get
it?
how you read it. Yeah.
Which is it?
I get how you read it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
It's
think
it's
that
the first, so we'll work.
We want to change the verbiage of that so that we're saying
As a
our
result.
staff is 5 to 7% under.
Oh, I see.
And we're 4 million. In order to make
Yeah.
that up, we're asking for 4 million.
I
That's
get
what
it.
we want to try to address.
Well, that's good feedback. Yep.
But maybe, and then we're gonna cover that on the next page, so maybe we don't even need that on the staffs. Okay,
I get how you read that though. That is confusing, Noah. Yeah. Thank you for
Makes it
that.
seem like, oh,
Mhm.
you need 8 million.
It's
You need
4 million.
Keep going.
It's 4 million to
4
do
million
it.
more to get teachers up where they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my fear would be some people would look at that and be like, well, that might, if it's not enough anyway, then what's the point?
Yeah. Right.
So,
Oh, this is good feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why we do it.
Anything else on the opening here or opening first half of that? Okay, then the call to action is to take the survey. People will be able to take it online at paper and pencil.
Will we have options? We have a pretty good population of, foreign language speakers who are not Hispanic, of Spanish speaking. Will there be other options or abilities? Like, did we have someone?
You can add that. I guess we have if you have difficulty reading the survey, need additional support, so we can add it there. So an additional, another language beyond Spanish.
Yeah, I just think we really need to be inclusive of everybody in our district. We do have that, we do have a beautifully diverse district.
I think the trouble would be trying to be able to get them to understand that.
Right.
So like, we'd have to have something that would be very simple, like if you need a different language, call this number or something, so then you would have, because who knows what it could be.
Right.
But isn't there like 40 different languages and families in our district or something to that effect?
Yeah.
So we can't print it, we can't have it in all.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying. it
But
could
if
be-
we
be
could,
added.
I don't know how you would do that. Could we figure out the 40 different languages or whatever it is and put a little postcard that has like a simple sentence in each of those languages that would be included in the mailing?
Translated.
So that they would know like, oh, I need it in Hmong, I need it in Hebrew, I need it in whatever it is. And I can see that in my language here that, oh, I need to go here to be able to get this translated for me or get a copy of this version so I can read it and then respond to it. So is that possible?
Well, it's possible, but it was good till you hit 40.
I don't know how many it is. I don't know how many it is. And
We could
I
find.
just know I've heard through our EL's presentations that, and again, it might be one family that speaks, some of these languages, but
Yeah.
maybe we narrow it down to ones that we know are
Maybe
multiple.
reach out to the individual families that you know.
Or ELL
person,
families.
And then maybe pick the top 1, 2, or 3, whatever it is. Get the 80 or 90%.
And we could ask our staff to, within the schools, they'll probably know best what families that are currently there that
Sure.
speak a different language,
Yeah.
that would be outside of,
We
Spanish.
can get the top ones and then we can work with the families.
Just something that has like a one line translated in that language to say, if you need it in a different language, please, call, write, email. I don't know what would be the best option for that, but just to try to get as many people as possible to actually be able to take the survey.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so languages.
I know we can't take up a bunch of real estate on here. That's why I thought maybe a separate insert for that piece.
The other place I was thinking is on the back, there'd be a mailing tab. Got a little more room. Look at that too.
Okay.
All right, page 2. So this is a little bit tricky because the district will now be considering both the capital and operational referendum. So you have to tell people what the difference is. So we said local voters can approve 2 types of referendums to provide their schools with additional funding. A capital referendum allows the district to take out a loan or issue debt to pay for major facility improvements. West Dallas, West Milwaukee voters have not supported this type of referendum in the last 20 years. An operational referendum asks voters to approve additional funds to help pay for compensation, utilities, insurance, and student programs. Unlike 70% of the districts in the state, West Dallas, West Milwaukee voters have never approved this type of referendum. So we went back through our research and found, I think it was Aaron's kind of showing that everybody's going, well, and since 1993, 70% of districts have secured the state funding. So again, to provide some context for situation challenges here.
I mean, I feel like the wording, have we never needed to approve this type of referendum?
No, we've asked.
It's been rejected.
It's been rejected.
We've asked the operating one time.
When was,
Yeah,
when was
The
that?
17, the payroll.
That was during the
17. Okay, that was that one.
Mhm.
Okay,
We've asked capital, obviously,
yeah,
the 5 of the 6 times, so.
The times that they've been approved, they've been capital improvements.
gotcha. Okay,
On it, and it still tells a story, right? Because
right.
we're talking about how our teachers are underpaid, and then we hear our taxpayers and citizens and parents criticizing our scores.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? When you're comparing our funding here to the other districts and they're able to pay their teachers more, I mean, that's telling a story, right? In terms of what's going on here.
This is a little tricky because we get a lot of information on one page. So
Yeah.
Try to have it, and it's complicated. So we try to have it stand out. West Dallas, West Milwaukee, per student funding is the lowest of all bordering school districts. And as a result, West Dallas, West Milwaukee staff salaries are 5% below average as compared to these districts. So you can see New Berlin, Franklin, Greendale, South Milwaukee, and Wauwatosa. And then where you're at currently, what you're proposing. So the district's asking West Dallas, West Milwaukee voters to consider an operational referendum that provides $4 million on an ongoing basis to maintain current programs and services for students, increase staff compensation to be competitive with neighboring districts. You're still going to be towards the bottom, and fund technology updates. If approved, West Dallas, West Milwaukee per student funding would increase by $553 to $11,053 and still be second lowest when compared to neighboring districts. If voters approve the referendum, the estimated property tax mill rate would increase by 31 cents and remain below the 2022-23 level.
For 2024.
Yeah, actually,
I think, I feel like we need a note in there saying like this, next.
Yeah, because that
Maybe below.
graph is confusing.
Yeah,
I think, in fact, I wrote when I was,
I saw you put a line.
we need a projected, and we need one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A projected
Yeah.
24.
So Bill, is the second blue bullet point, is that supposed to be 5.27%?
As well, because the front is 5 to 7, and then this says 5.7.
I'll check that. I thought we were trying to go with an average across all staff. But I'll check that.
And if we remove it from the first page, it doesn't matter as long as it's consistent.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yep.
So Aaron, I asked you about this,
Mhm.
the budget that we got moved everything to 11,000 per student.
Yep.
So are we actually gonna be $53 more than what we would have gotten anyways
Say it again.
from the state funding?
So this is based on 22-23, right? So
Right, so
any-
what I'm saying though, with the state funding,
Mhm.
so are we still adding the $553 on top of the 11,000? So are we being 11,553 then?
So it'll be going into 24-25. We'll get an additional $325 per student. So we'll be at 11,325, then plus the referendum increase,
Which is 553 if it passed.
which is
next year.
553. Yep.
So then we'd be at 11,800.
11,800. But then the problem is these other amounts haven't been published yet.
So we're just doing it off at 20.
You see what I'm saying? No, so I can't compare. I have to like, we can dig it.
Future oranges we can't define.
You know what I'm saying?
He's doing it off the best, most accurate recent data. we
So
have.
I emailed Bear to say, do you have the whole statewide levies yet? They said they don't have them yet until the audits are completed in April. In April, they'll have all of it together for the whole state. So I don't know the whole state average in terms of what's the levies per pupils. I can tell you ours went up a little bit more than some districts did because we received 325, but then we received the 175 additional to get us to the 175.
Yeah.
So the average is likely not going to be 553. It'll probably be closer to 500 or below. Do you see what I'm saying? So
But we'll know that before this survey goes out?
possibly, yes, it'd be in April. So yes, yeah. I have to ask them exactly what date will we have it. We could update that to reflect that.
I think it's incredibly important because what we're arguing here, unless we change what we're arguing for,
Mhm.
right? If we're just gonna go with straight salary changes and we don't tie it to per pupil and we get rid of that completely, then we don't have to worry about it. But if we're
Sure.
tying it to per pupil and saying we're doing it from here to here, well, here to here is now changed from
Sure.
when I sent this survey out.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important that we're clear on that, because again, people are gonna accuse us of moving the goalposts.
Yep.
You said in the survey it was this much, but now it's actually this much.
It's a good point. I might argue to take out the proposed. And simply say we're asking,
Current.
to increase, the 553 is an absolute number. That's what we're asking. But the new number is gonna be different.
It's contingent upon that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I also am working with Wauwatosa right now. They're very large operating referendum, so
Yeah.
their number could change.
So like a good example, like just based on this graph, like Tosa got moved 11,000 and so did we.
Mhm.
Right? So now we're 23-24, unless something happened there that I don't know about, which I won't know about till April.
Right.
I'm guessing we're the same as them. Now, South Milwaukee, they're gonna be higher. They're gonna be 11,000 plus 325. So we're still the same difference behind them minus the one set. You see what I'm saying? It's a little harder to do.
This is my overarching concern, because the point of doing this is retaining staff. But if we just all move the same way, we're not going to be able to retain staff, because then everyone else is just paying them more anyways.
Yeah.
So I want to put this in a number that would actually move us up this chart so that we can retain staff, because we can provide them a more competitive salary. If that all, rising tide moves all ships. So if that happens, we've done nothing. People are paying more in taxes and we're still losing teachers. They're going to come look at us and say, hey, I supported your referendum. Why are teachers still leaving? And then we have to say, well, because everyone else also supported a referendum. And so we're basically back where we were before we started this whole thing. And now we have to come back again. So that's why I really think it's important that before this survey goes out, we know that information. So we can know if we get support, where we might fall within that, with the understanding that other districts may also be getting support for a similar referendum, but we should have some more information about their numbers as well at that point. So we can know, well, Tosa's asking for 8 million and they're going to raise them up to, 12,000, 12,500, whatever they were offering their staff last year to get everyone to move over to Tosa before they thought they were getting money from the state. So that is my biggest issue, that we spend all this capital on trying to get this little bit amount of money, and it ends up doesn't get us anywhere.
What you're asking for first is possible with the per pupil. The second portion is hard to do, Noah, because you're asking for me to know what they're going to ask in November for what reason, and it isn't board approved till August.
Not only that, is it going to be approved in November?
So that's why I think it makes more sense to aim a little higher.
We can, but you just heard on the survey that people's appetite's lower.
But we can provide the rationale for why it needs to be higher.
We can, yeah. I agree.
Because I'll say, we can do 4 million. But then if you spend 4 million and we're in the same boat than we are right now, are you happy or are you sad? Like, did we achieve the goal we're trying to achieve?
Well, I think if you increase staff salaries by 5 to 7% with that money directly, I think you have a lot of people that are pretty happy about it.
I think the people who are going to stay here anyway will be pretty happy about it. But if the people who are getting poached from our district, which is still happening, are still going to get poached from our district. That's what I'm trying to stop. That it's not so easy to move because it's a $10,000 raise. That's what I'm trying to figure out to do. And to put all this effort into this to only get to where we are right now, really in reality, doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather do 6 million and say, hey, that's going to put us in the middle of the pack. Now we can compete. And we can then defend it. Take more money off the capital line if we need to. To me, it starts with the staff. And if we can get the staff to stay and show the community, hey, look, you supported this. Look. Now our rates, instead of 50%, they're 30%. And they're going down every year for our turnover within 1 to 5 years. This has been my concern the whole time, between the extra money that we got from the state for per pupil, and then the fact that all these people are going to referendum, but we're just spinning our wheels when it comes down to what we're actually going to give staff to get them to try to not live here.
It's just and I don't disagree with you. Asking for more, like moving the needle up and really taking a huge dent out of that and becoming more of a, not just paying average, but paying better than average. That's what you're getting at. That's going to keep people. I don't disagree with that. The challenge is, one, when they go to referendum, what's it for? Is it similar to Milwaukee of, we're just going to sustain programming and maintain CPI increases, or like Tosa, we're going to give 11% and now we have a deficit to pay for that? Like, the intent, what you're asking for, why? I mean, these are all the things that are complex unknowns. I don't disagree with you. You're not going to get a fight from me. I agree with you.
And I don't mistake my passion for anger, but I just worry about it. I know how much this takes to do. I know how much just to get a referendum up there and put in front of people. And I'm happy the community wants to pay teachers more, but I'm just worried that if we do it and gets passed, but we don't see the results that we're expecting for it because of these other things, people are going to say, well, why didn't you know that? Why didn't you ask for more? I mean, what was this thing? And still be the second lowest when compared to other districts. We're going to say, well, why are we going for second lowest, from lowest to second lowest? Well, how much are we going to actually gain by doing that? Even if all these numbers stayed the same. Like, well, let's aim for like the top 50% and see where that puts us. And then, we may end up in the bottom third still when everything shakes out, but at least then we've gotten a little bit better than where we were. Brian.
Hypothetically speaking, if we were to go to referendum in November and we were to get what it was to be voted against, When's the earliest we could go to bring that question again to a vote?
April.
We'd have enough time to get that.
Well, if you ask two,
Oh, you get two per calendar.
calendar, yes, you're right, yes, April.
So we
Yes.
could, okay. Because to Noah's point, I kind of agree because we're not moving the needle, right? We're staying exactly where we are. And this almost sounds bad. But I don't think it would be the end of the world if people said no in November. And the reason I said that is because we'll have more data. We'll know what got approved in April. We'll know what got approved in November, and we'll have a much stronger argument. I'm not saying that's how I want it to go, but I almost think it pays to ask for a little bit more and maybe test that limit. Like you said, number 3, right?
Mhm.
Maybe we at least go with number 4. It was close. And I don't know what the sample size, not everybody, obviously, that's going to vote responded to that, right? I would almost aim a little higher. See what happens, and then we re-arm with more information if we need to in April. That's just what I'm thinking.
Because the thing is too, like you said, people are like, oh, I love the teachers, but screw the capital stuff. So they might be number 3 being like, I want all of that to go towards teachers, right? Like, I don't want any of it going to the capital. And so when they see the larger amount, like, oh yeah, that's where I was within that amount to do it. And I also think that people are hesitant to vote to say they're going to spend money on things when it's kind of a black box of what that money is going to be spent on. I think that as we narrow down, we're going to buy this for this school or buying this for that school. And this is all money that's going to go for staff salaries. It gives people more confidence on what they're actually putting their money towards. And I think and I understood we're doing this for a reason, we're doing this way for a reason, and there's no criticism on that. But I think as we can, like when this survey goes out, but that's why I want this survey to have good information in it that people are like, okay, that makes sense. Sure. I get it. And if the capital fails, but we get the operational, I think that is a really big step for our district and it helps our staff. I really have concerns about losing more staff if this fails. Because they're going to say, my community that I sit here in blood, sweat, and tears for every, they don't support me. So why wouldn't I go somewhere else for 10,000, 15,000 more? Maybe more than that now if more referendums get passed than our doesn't. So that's what I think. And I don't know what the number is. I threw 6 million out. I don't know where it would be, but I think it needs to be more than this. I think we have to figure out where's 50% right now.
Sure.
What would get us to 50% around what we have right now? And let's pick that dollar amount and say, this is why we picked it. Because there's all these referendums coming out. We don't want to be like, yeah, you spent 4 million more, but for the next forever, but it really doesn't get us anywhere. We're still 50% of our staff leaving within 5 years.
And I just want to follow up. I was saying with the caveat that I understand that, people have a certain appetite and a certain limit to what is comfortable for them. I get it. It's tough, right? But if we're going to ask you to do something to help the district, again, to the previous points, it doesn't make sense if it's not going to. Because then all we did is, kick the can down the road a little bit. We're still going to have the same problems. We're taking more money, but because we didn't get a little bit more, we're still having the same issues. And then we're still going to have the same complaints. So I know it's a fine line, but we need to find a way to balance that to be able to make the impact that we need while getting that public support.
There is a way to do it. You could imagine on this page where you'd ask one question that would increase for, do X, Y, and Z, it would cost 4 million, but we'd still be at the bottom or near the bottom, or it could be 6 million. That would put us in the middle. You could ask, would you support A, would you support B? Then you would have your data, let the community decide and weigh in, but they would understand, even to your point, Noah, even if you say yes, we're still gonna be at the bottom.
Right. Are we fixing the problem that we're trying to address?
Yeah.
So I can try to write that survey. That's what you want to, or your other option for survey companies, options. The other option would be to test the higher amount, explain exactly what you did, why we did it. Say thumbs up, thumbs down on the 6 million.
And I think either option has some validity. Option B, if you ask, here's the 6 million, here's why, whatever the number is, this is the reason. And then if the answer is no, then you can pivot back and go, well, we need to get something passed. Maybe it's recurring. It builds the base. In 2 years, when the averages, we go back we go back again. We're just gonna keep coming back when we fall below this. I mean, the strategy can become whatever works.
Yeah.
You know, so I think whatever you guys feel most comfortable with is what I think Bill could do, so.
I think it's gonna be very important post elections and post referendum to track that, to continue to track kind of where we're falling in that I can't talk today. Per pupil spending compared to other districts, because whether the referendum passes or not, I think it's gonna be important to kind of show, okay, this is where we are now. Because again, you don't have all the data, right? You don't know who else is passing referendum. So it's going to be important to continue to tell that story every so often, no matter what that result is.
So we could do something like Nicolay does, which basically they go referendum every 6 years. And they recalibrate every 6 years. They say, okay, here's what we do, here's what we spend. And then to continue getting it, we need this much money. If we don't get this much money, you know, class sizes are going up, you know, we're cutting these programs, and then the community every 6 years, they decide if they're going to support it or not. And we could do a bigger number and say, instead of being recurring, this is for 5 years. And we're thinking within 5 years time, this should keep us competitive. But in 5 years time, then we're going to come back and ask again. And then number might be higher, number might be lower. It depends on what everyone else did around us to still stay competitive. And I think then it's not recurring. It's not like forever. You're saying I'm doing this forever. It's 5 years. You're giving us an opportunity to try to do what we think we need to do to keep staff.
Sure.
And then all the benefits that would then provide us, which increasing test scores, you know, having less turnover at buildings, so there's consistency, like all of those benefits of having staff stay long-term in a school district. Hopefully, we're starting to see that achievement, and that measurable is really easy, right? The 1 to 5 teacher range goes down. It's 5 years. It's a perfect time frame to put it in for.
Yep.
Because, hey, 5 years, we got 5 years of data. Here's what we know. We went from 50%, now we're at 35%, whatever it is. And we can then see if it's working and compared to what other districts have done. So that's another possibility that we could consider. Instead of making it recurring forever, we can look at a shorter term range and say, and ask for more and say, we think we need this much in order to stay competitive. We're not paying everyone top dollar here. We're not Nicolay, but we're in the middle, right? And that we think we can compete in the middle if you can give us the money to do so and see what they say. So I kind of like the 2-question option so that people can see it and then just be clearly state like this sentence and still be the second lowest when compared to neighboring districts. Like if I read that, I'm like, what? Why are we doing this? What is the point? Second lowest? Second from the bottom? Who wants to be there? Like who wants to work for someone who's there? It's very difficult to get people to recruit to come to a district who's there. So I want to be a little bit better so we can say, yeah, you know, we're not the best, you know, but we do a lot with what we get.
Sure.
And so come here, give us a shot. We think you'll like it.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 questions, 2 options.
I got you.
I agree with you. Everything that both you, Brian, have said, I agree with. I think this operational, to be honest, if we took off ask for less in the capital referendum, I'd be all for that because the teachers, our staff is what makes our schools, you know. I do have concerns though about not doing a non-occurring because my concern would be is what if in 5 years and we've done this, we're getting this extra money, what if they come back and they're like, no, we're not supporting this? You know, I mean, I guess that would be my concern is then that would be my only hesitancy to do it.
And every time you have to ask for more. Nicolay's asked for more every time.
Yeah. And every time
So
they
it's
have, but the
just-
benefit of the one thing I liked about it is they have a laundry list of things that you will lose if you don't vote for this referendum. Right? So things that we have done. We now have a list of things that will go away if you don't support it. Well, we're going to have increased class sizes. Staff are going to leave in droves because we're not paying the most, right? So as it is, we're in the middle. Now you're going to drop us down to the bottom again. So who do you think is going to stay in that regard? So like it gives you a list of things like people always say, well, what happens if this doesn't pass? What happens? What happens? Well, we just keep shuffling along, hoping for the best is basically what happens. But if you have a non-recurring one in 6 years time or whatever it is that we decide upon, then you can say, okay, here we were. This is where we need to be. We're gonna need this much more. And if you vote for, you know, or we could pick a middle number that's between that. Well, you could vote for less, but you know, then these things go away. We have to cut these things. Or you could vote for not at all, and then all of these things go away. And people respond differently to that because then their kids, I don't want to see the, you know, I mean, people don't want one high school. Well, that could be something that would have to happen.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have to move to one high school because we can't afford to have two anymore. We need this referendum to keep two high schools open, or we need this referendum to keep two football teams, two basketball teams, whatever. Like, these are things, I'm just throwing things out there. We'd have to do the analysis at that time, but it gives people a penalty for not supporting it, because look, we just physically, there's only so many dollars that can go around. And in 5 years' time, Lord knows what, where things would be. But, and like I said, all the referendums get passed in April and November of this year, they completely blow this out of the water. Like, it's really hard to say. But that's why I think we should aim a little bit higher with that in mind. We know this is going to be record-setting years for referendum, for operational referendum, which is what is going to directly affect how we can pay our teachers, not how we pay our teachers, how we compete for teachers. That's what we have to do. We have to compete for staff. This is free agency. This is worse than college football transfer pools. So like, this is the thing that we have to try to communicate. Like this, we're not trying to give people Lamborghinis and, caviar every night for dinner. This is just to try to keep good people in the door so we can educate our community the best that we can. Right.
My fear about doing the analysis like Nicolay does every 5-6 years is, and I remember this vividly, and it was obviously a different situation, but the last time we went to a referendum for expenses, people accused us of threatening to remove things, right? And again, different situation, but my fear is the community, certain segments of the community might latch onto that again. And that would be an uphill battle. I think that's why I prefer the original method. I think trying to have that argument every 5 or 6 years or whatever that looks like, I just worry what that could look like.
I'm not opposed to having either, but I'm just trying to throw.
No, I know. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit to that thought, just because it just worries me a little bit. That's all. Maybe it's a good idea, but personally it worries me.
I had the same reaction. I think just the idea of it being like dangling them over a fire, like, nah, I don't know. It's,
Sometimes it's the only thing that works to get people to decide, but I'm not opposed to doing recurring. So I just know people will balk at that and say, oh, I gotta pay this much more forever until I die or sell my property. I'm paying this much money.
And the recurring piece, to me, I know we haven't gotten there yet. It's more of a like hypothetical. The recurring piece is tying it to what everyone else gets.
Right.
That's the point. So if we don't want to do recurring, then don't even show this. You say, this is the problem. This is the amount of money we need. It's for this amount of time because we think it'll solve the problem. That's exactly what you're saying. It's exactly right. The recurring piece is more of a, do you think the community is more likely to support a smaller number and you keep going back whenever the number falls below the number? That's the strategy. Cudahy does that. Smaller districts do that all the time because they think they can get the community to support that more frequently, smaller than less frequently, bigger. You know what I mean?
How more frequently? Every
depends. You have to keep every year. You have to look at what's per pupil approved this year in April.
Right, but is it every year they go? Because my worry is that we would pass it in November and then in April we'd be going for another one saying, actually, we need another $1.5 million so that we can actually be where we need to be. That's my concern, because I know for a fact our community be like, nope, we just passed it 4 months ago. Like,
I think even if it fails to come back with one in April, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I do.
I do to an extent, but I think if something passes, and I think to some degree at that point, if we do keep coming back, it just shows the urgency of it. I worry that if it comes back as a no and we just sit on it, then it's like, okay, well, it wasn't that important. They didn't really need it, right? It could almost give that kind of mindset. Like if what we are saying is so important that we can't compete, and they said no, then okay, fine, maybe we have to readjust, but we almost have to come back with something else. That's my thought. I mean, I get your point.
Oh, I don't disagree that we should, but I don't believe there's any way in hell that it would pass.
Well, and you might be right there, yeah. But
and then I would just, this community, be honest, we're wasting more money to publicize.
But at the same, I understand, I get what you're saying, Jeff, but at the same time, I feel like, if we did go again, it's because we need it. It's urgent. I mean, it's.
You don't need to sell me.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
saying,
in.
like, you know, I can see both sides, like people being like, oh, God, again, but at the same time, yeah, again,
Yeah.
because we don't know what else can we do at this point? I mean, I think that we've done a really good job of, you know, we shifted sports to, you know, our, the middle schools got moved over to the
Front
rec
three.
department. We moved our theater program over to the rec department. We've made some really creative changes to try to save money and do that. And I just, there's always so much that we can do.
Finance, I mean, we've done
At some point,
all the
So I
things.
mean, so at this point, I mean, like, we, you know, we've done, I feel like, the things that we need to do to get back on track, to have the rating that we have, and now it's like. If we want all the things that we continue to have in our schools, something's got, you know,
Right.
we've got to have the resources.
Biggest problem is we don't have control over our future.
Kristen,
We're talking in circles because we all agree on the same things at once. Can we? I agree with Noah. Let's go in the middle, higher range, just because, you know, this is a question. We're asking people what they're willing to do. You know what I mean?
so do we have two questions or do we want one question
I think we need
two
two.
options, right? You're saying two
Two
options
options,
here? Yeah.
We have to have two.
for the survey,
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's just, we're just asking questions. We don't know what people are gonna come back with yet. And at this point, we can't sit here playing the game of, well, what if, what if, what if? I just know our story is finally being told correctly out there by a lot of people that's not us or in the PTA or directly related to the school board. I don't think we should be sitting here. I think we need to ask the question of, would you rather this or rather that? Move that number up. And I agree with you, Noah, that I don't want to be the bottom. I want to get us higher up. Because, you know, as someone who works in the schools, we all understand what teachers and sports staff are worth, millions. But we're just talking ourselves into a circle here because we're all preaching to the choir, and I get that. So I think there should be two questions. I don't really know how to put them together, but Aaron's really smart, so
That's
that's what
Bill.
we do.
Bill's got that. That's not me.
I think,
Bill's really smart.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is figuring out what does the dollar figure actually need to be to get us in what we think. I know we're gonna have to do some extrapolation on this, but where we think around 50%, around the middle of the pack is what I would aim for.
Yeah.
What's that dollar amount? And then that would be the second question, the
Sure.
second option on that survey.
Mhm.
This 4 million to get us to basically where we are right now.
Not good enough.
But hey, we got something, or this much to get us in the middle and allowing us to be able to effectively try and compete.
Sure.
Because then things like benefits and other things do come into play.
Mhm.
You're not just looking at hard dollars and cents.
Sure.
You're looking at, oh, and then the sale, and you know, the benefits are this much versus that much, and then people have to actually take it and look into the details instead of saying like, oh, 10,000 more, bye.
Okay. Yeah, we can pull the regional information and we can put us for 4 million, where that puts us to get us above the 50%, what does that put us? And we can put some dollar, if that's 5.2, whatever that is,
Thank you.
Perfect.
you know, so.
Joe, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just thinking along the lines of the recurring versus non-recurring. I feel like that might be a question worth asking the community as well. Would you prefer one?
Bill's shaking his head.
One time? No?
I think the answer will be a resounding non-recurring.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we have to look at.
And, you know, people don't don't know what that means.
Right, and that's the money like I just sent out a model, like here's what it would look like if we did a non-recurring, here's what it would look like if we did a recurring. I don't know if that would be helpful.
I think the language is the board is asking the community to consider a recurring or non-recurring, whatever you want to ask is what the survey is, but to ask people to weigh in on, they just won't know. I've tried it. I've written that question, but you won't get good data.
And generally, from my understanding from the finance, districts that ask non-recurring ask for larger amounts because they're trying to solve a multitude of problems. Technology, staffing, utility, it's like everything, right? Not a recurring is like targeted. Like these couple things we want to solve, and it's tied to something and it's like forever. And that's Milwaukee's the good example. They're like, we got to cut everything if you don't pass it. We need everything. And they're going recurring because like, yeah, we can't ask for 5 years, then we'll ask for 500 next time. I mean, that's a good example, I think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we in agreement? So those two options for the operational piece, and we'll have to let you write them.
I'll write them and then, but they'll be we'll ask for recurring and ask people to weigh in.
I think reoccurring is where we go. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
We'll bring this back, obviously. if
Yeah,
you
of
guys-
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're up to page 3, cost cutting. If voters do not support a referendum, budget cuts will be needed. The district does not endorse or recommend any of the following, but must consider all options. So this isn't the threat, latest, but this is the reality that if it's not supported, the board will need to increase class sizes, reduce teaching staff, reduce middle and high school course offerings, elementary specials, athletic and fine art offerings, technology updates, building maintenance, delaying curriculum updates, reducing academic support services, and reducing transportation services as far as you could anyway. It's illegal.
And this is really about like, if you authentically want to solve the problem and it's voted no, this is what one of these you'd have to do to solve the problem. Or several to solve the problem. Otherwise, you continue status quo. That's just the honest truth. So, yeah.
At what enrollment? And maybe we kind of have this projected out, but at what enrollment? From a numbers perspective, would we be able to, I'm saying I like this idea, but be able to combine the 2 main high schools?
Yeah, I have to go back and.
And the reason I ask that is, should that be a question on here too?
Could add closed schools, close additional schools, or specifically in high school.
I think we could say close additional schools. We also did consider closing another elementary school previously.
Yeah.
You're still like minimum 3 or 4 years off from high school, just from my head. I have to
Yeah,
go back.
I thought it was a while. The
Yeah.
reason I kind of like that out there is because everybody seemed to be so against closing the high school, right?
Mhm.
So if we're putting that question specifically here again, it's saying, okay, fine, you don't support this, but that may be something we have to look at, and it will be without the upgrades that we had talked about before. It'll just be moving the student population into the existing building.
You want to test high school specifically, or just closed schools in general?
I'm open to that.
Maybe a more
I like the specific high school one just because I think it tells a story, a very pointed story, but I'm open to either.
My only cause against specific is that the first page, second
Right, you're
line.
telling me I'm not thinking of this.
So I would, if you're gonna do that, I would just advise consider future school consolidation.
That's fine. I mean, I think that first page says
You know.
that's not what this referendum is about.
Yeah.
And that third page is saying, well, if it doesn't pass, then
Yeah.
those are the options, but I get it.
But closing schools is a cost cutting strategy.
We've done it.
You're not, it's not what you're proposing. It says you don't want that, but it's an option you have to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make it generic. Right?
Yeah, I think consolidation of necessary school buildings.
Yeah.
And we can sell them and, get a couple $1 million to operate for a year.
And then we'll have another celebration.
All right, page 4, and now I'm moving over to facility challenges. So this is information. So your average school is 76 years old. You've got $275 million of outstanding projected capital maintenance needs. That's just information. Those are the facts. We go on to page 5, I guess. And this is a prioritization exercise where we ask if people should address it immediately, important future project or not a priority. This is maybe more just for education, as much as people can weigh in. What will I think happen here, all these things are going to be fairly important. There might be some things that are a little bit more, we will weight as 3, medium as 2, and low as 1. So you're probably going to end up with a lot of 2.3s, 2.4s, 2.2s, I suspect. But that's really not the important question, because I think someone said earlier that I think the community trusts that you will optimize the money that's provided in terms of how you spend it for building maintenance. But more important question is how much money we have, if any. So this data is, I guess, to me, it's not that important in terms of helping you decide. It might, maybe something will be a clear winner. But probably the most important question is the next page. Capital referendum would provide funding to address some of the facility upgrades and improvements described on the previous page, unlike 78% of the districts in the state. West also small kids not secured a voter approved capital referendum for 20 years. We said that twice. I'm not sure where we want to use it. We're just asking the community to consider a minimum investment of 45 million to begin to address this 275 million of potential facility updates and improvements. So the logic here is we would ask for 45, which right now corresponds to $27, and then go up to potentially 85. It's still a dent to the 275, but it's something that it's basically a tax tolerance on capital investment.
I just want to make sure that covers both questions, correct? Or does it just cover the employment?
This is just the facilities.
Just facilities. Okay,
So
thank you.
we've been saying it's 61 cents both, right? So it was 50 million, that was about 30 cents. And then the operating one was 31. That's put them together. And this is us trying to get into option 3 here. We've been
Right.
saying 50, 45 puts us into option 3, giving people an option. They won't really think about it like that, but like this is like trying to tear down a little bit.
And if you do ask both questions in November, they have to be
separate.
They have to be separate.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're separate. Yeah.
I know there's no way to do this, but the thing that bothers me about this is, let's say they say 45 million is fine. So they're gonna have it in the back. I think there's gonna be a segment that's gonna say, okay, so there's 230 million left. Well, no, there's not 230 million left because of inflation and the cost of everything. And that's assuming everything stays in the exact same condition that it is. So it really is taking a very small dent out of the problem. But I mean, there's no way to really account for that unless we want to give them a book.
But again, like putting debt in the books, it's paying off your car and then replacing the car
Yeah.
with a new. So you just got to like get in a cycle. If you get one passed, then you go, well, we have this debt in the books. Now we're going to go back when it's almost done and ask for something else. And then people, it's not the big bite at one time. People are complaining.
And that, my question
Yeah.
is, are we going to be able to take a big enough bite that it's actually going to make a noticeable difference? Is my fear.
I think as big a bite is they probably did.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
And this to me too, one more thing, quick second note here. This to me too allows, I think, you guys to get a sense of like, is there like a sticker shock here?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because like, if that is the feeling that you guys get from this data, and certainly Bill's an expert in this, like there are people that I've talked to that think the whole community can get rebuilt for $45 million. Like they think that.
Yeah.
Okay. So like it doesn't matter if it's 27 a year. They go, I can't fathom that amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So like there are different ways. If like authentically we feel like that is the problem, you can ask a separate operating question that like asks for 3 million a year for deferred maintenance. Like you can do it different ways. Districts do it like that too. So this allows us to tier that out a little bit too. Like I only support a smaller, like that to me is like, well, I support the facilities, but I can't, like, that's just too much money. I don't know. Like, I don't know. So
in the presentation, we had 275 as the first part and then 111 as the priority ones. Are we using the larger dollar figure here? Because then it looks that we're taking a smaller bite out of it? Or is it better to say, oh, we have 275 million of total needs, 111 million, which are red alarm, red alerts. We need to do this ASAP, like yesterday, sort of.
We could have
like,
that.
this is not something that we want to wait on.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh, this is,
You guys
are fine.
Yeah.
I walked in the schools and I was fine. I didn't die. Like, that's sort of like their attitude on it. It's like,
75 total, of
but-
which 111.
but in
is-
reality-
is a significant priority.
so then you're saying 111 million, 45. Hey, that's almost half. Hey, now we are taking a bigger chunk out of it.
Sure.
And if 111 is a high priority, I feel like that should be a question on here. Like we're going up to 85 million, it should maybe go up.
Maybe that's how we do
Right,
it. Yeah.
if that's the high priority,
There's no way they do 111.
then they get that, but I don't think they're gonna do the 85.
No, they won't.
So maybe
That's-
you at least put that on there so they can see what that looks like.
I'd say maybe put it of 111 million or something like that. So
Yeah.
like, they can kind of see where they're, what bite they're taking.
I think we can add a column on whatever this page is. Just say, here's a total and here's a high priority and total.
That's what we had before in the presentation.
Yeah.
All right, I like
Because
No,
that's not, unless there's a strategy to use the larger number. But if we're like, like, we have 275 million in needs. Don't get us wrong.
Right.
But we've gone through them and said, like, these ones are like, they might go bad tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we gotta fix them before we get any more money.
So
And like,
this water heater works, it's old, but this one doesn't work and we're replacing it every, yeah. I'm
yeah,
with you.
there's a part we have to replace once a week, otherwise the thing fails.
Mhm.
So like, that's the sort of, we told that story before, and I'm just trying to keep the theme
Sure.
the same.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's an argument. So maybe that we go from 45 up to, is it 110? That's the high priority.
111.
111. So maybe the high end and what we ask for is,
Yeah, let's do it all.
at least we ask.
Yeah.
Say
It
that.
at least shows the.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it goes in 15 million increments and at the end it's 111.
Yeah.
And just see if there's like people are like
Whatever.
linearly and like, if you need this, ask me that. Maybe the people that'll say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not, but maybe
I'm
not.
curious to see the numbers. I have expectations, but.
15%. Okay. Yep, and then page 7 is the demographics. And then we add one overall satisfaction section. A kind of net promoter type question at the end. That is,
There's a last page too, isn't there?
yeah, the last page is a mailing panel, and this is where we could add that additional language, where I would say can get more space to work with.
Okay.
And then we could put, whatever that says in that language, say,
Yeah.
You request
Yeah.
this survey in on
Yeah.
call Aaron.
Yeah, the hospital. The hospitals will have them down to like this big for a plethora, so I mean, or even a scanned spot for another.
And then in yellow, when we get the spring survey dates or spring engagement dates, we'll have those there, like, please join us, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
locations and times and dates and.
Do we want, employee, okay, never mind, sorry, let's ask, I would say about just getting employees, and so we can have separate community employees.
Yeah.
If we have children, such as our parents or caregivers. Okay. Is that enough feedback?
This is good. This is the point of this. Like, yeah, I don't.
We think we're brilliant, and then
Then you mean no.
No, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But these are the things that keep me awake at night when I'm thinking about how, how's this gonna work? Because at the end of the day, if the community supports something, I don't want regret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We supported it, and you didn't do what you said you were gonna do. Not because we did something wrong.
Mhm.
It's just the numbers didn't work out.
Right.
And that's, for the staff, that's the biggest thing. I think we have more wiggle room with the facilities piece, because we always know we got something to do with the facilities.
Yeah.
If we can get a chunk of money for that and be strategic with how we spend it, I think that'll be well received. But I think the staffing piece is the biggest concern for me, because of it directly relates to everything else that people complain about our district about. And so I truly believe that if we can fix or address, I'm not saying we're gonna fix it, if we can make steps towards addressing that concern, along with the new compensation model that we're also working on in kind of conjunction with this, that we can reduce that 1 to 5 turnover to the point where we're seeing the numbers of staff that have experience in going back to increasing our district, how it used to be.
Yeah, 5 to 10, 10 to
Yes.
15, yeah.
Not just people who are hanging on to retirement so they can, get the benefits they had then. And that's the only reason that they're not the only reason. But one of the main reasons they're staying here is because they put in so much time, it makes no sense to start over somewhere else.
Mhm.
But for 1 to 5 teachers, they don't have that same thing. We want to give them the state of 5 to 10, 10 to 15. So that is what my big goal is for this referendum. But I don't want to be like, man, 4 million, that was like half of what we needed
Yeah.
to even get close to where what Tosa, got, or what Waukesha did, or what Muskego or Whitnall or whoever else is going, that's my big concern, because they're going to say, well, why didn't you ask for more?
Mhm.
If that was the thing, why didn't you ask for more?
Well, that's assuming that question that we present gets a yes. But yeah, I know your point.
And I know what we're trying to do is we want it to be palatable, right? We don't be like, oh, they're trying to get everyone Porsches, but it's reality, right? And as long as we can present the reality, we're not sugarcoating it, we're not making it more than it is. It's reality. The numbers show it.
Yeah, you're trying to balance like what you need, exactly what you're saying, versus like what the community says too. It's like trying to find the middle ground. That's, you don't want to live in the
So
wide,
you put-
wide,
with that second option, if we put the rationale for it and say, I know we never mentioned this much before, but this is why we are. Because we looked at it and realized we would still be in the second lowest compared to everyone else around us.
Yeah, we didn't gain a thing.
What's the point?
Right.
You know, we're spinning our wheels here. We're putting all this effort in to get basically where we are right now.
Sure.
We're just trying not to go backwards, basically, at that point.
Okay,
What
so
else
we'll,
we need?
we'll update this and then we'll work out a date with Dr. Robinson to come back and give you guys kind of more of a polished product and go through that again, and then hopefully be good to go. If not April, we can always look at the timeline and move it back a little bit. So yeah.
Awesome.
Just quick, I'll go through kind of next steps, last slide on this, and then we'll be done. So obviously we're here tonight, workshop 3, February 14th. We have the alumni video release we went through. The 19th, I mentioned Dr. Robinson will be presenting to all staff during development day, kind of optional for staff to hear. Then the 26th through the March 22nd, leading up to spring break, will facilitate individual school staff optional meetings, like kind of like small group, hear us out, how have any questions. We'll kind of discuss contract timelines, try to work through that with staff, like to know when that's coming out. And then leading up to the, tentative, don't change the survey dates. March 18th would be a postcard spring engagement actions, like postcards inviting people to sessions. And then April 6th is the survey launch. So kind of leading up to that. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, I'm done. Yep.
Is there a way when we do our mailing that we can put this in an envelope that people are like, whoo, I can't miss it? Because I have a really big problem with like we sent out this last survey for even this. If I wasn't looking at it really, it was white, it had West Dallas, real small in the corner, and it said resident. I luckily went both in my mail, but I can tell you most stuff I usually get junk if it's possibly recycled.
It's interesting you said that. We do a lot of surveys, but we do 8-page and 4 pages. And the 4-page surveys get mailed out in an envelope.
Oh, that's right. We do the folding.
You do the folding. But when they go in an envelope, you gotta open it up to see what's inside before you can throw it out. So you open it up and then you open it anyway. The response rate on a 4-page survey is about, it goes from 19 to 20% up to 24, 25%. So it's pretty significantly more. Now, is that because it's shorter or is that because people actually opened it?
Yeah, that's all I was saying. Or that, or I mean, even just, can we send out, and I know mailings are expensive, but even like after we send out the survey, can we send out a reminder postcard? Because it seemed like people were responding well to the postcards, at least some of our, people who aren't on social media or they're not, as tapped into the internet. I just want to make sure we're sending these out, and especially, yes, 8 pages is a lot, but the more, data that we can get, I think is better. So I'm just trying to figure out ways that we can.
Good question.
We can definitely send it out to parents, because when we did a reminder, the rate of return shot up.
Yeah,
So we can definitely do that. We just need to figure out how to do it in an efficient manner to non-parents and more to taxpayers.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just
Figure
kind of
something
thinking.
out.
And they're the most important group.
Yeah, that's why, and that's why I'm thinking, I know a lot of people that showed up for the referendum sessions were like, yeah, I got the postcard in the mail, and it seemed like that resonated with at least.
And I think one of the things, and I completely agree, I mean, one of the things I'm trying to do is work the first session, spring engagement session, into the survey window. So like when we send the postcard out, it's like we're sharing what we've been hearing from people. This is what the survey results said, but then also being like, please take this one, because I think that's been helpful too.
I saw it.
So, yeah.
When we do the referendum, postcard.
Yeah, I see that, the week of
We
March.
can do the reminder. I'm trying to figure it, just work this out, but some type of reminder at the same time, because the postcards were effective.
Yeah.
In getting a new audience to come to those sessions. That was effective.
Yeah.
So we can work through that. We'll figure it out.
When are the referendum sessions going to be? Are they in April?
Yeah, so we'll send the invite out in March. Dr. Robbins, I gotta meet to talk about the dates and when they'll be, but they'll be during after spring break, during this window. That's the plan, is to hold them like subsequent weeks or something like that.
How many?
We're still working
out.
on it, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that was it. So,
All right.
any final thoughts?
Any other questions on this piece? Will this presentation be on the referendum website for
Yep.
people to view?
Mm-hmm. We'll get it published tomorrow morning.
That's the only thing people will ask about. So. And that's that. So. Thank you. Again, I apologize if my fashion came across as angry. It's not.
I tried to preface at the beginning, it's an authentic workshop. We want a lot of feedback and we knew we were gonna get it and it's good. So, yeah.
But thank you
Thank you very
for
much.
putting this together.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. You know, considering all the words that are in here, like we didn't change that many of them. So I think it was pretty good. All right, so,
Oh, word, Bill.
yep, I need to do that. So I'm gonna do, I need a motion, a second to convene an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1925, parent 1, parent F. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Okay, I need a motion, a second to adjourn our regular board meeting and reconvene as committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second. And do we roll call for that? Yeah, roll call, vote, please.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Ms. Deal,
Yes.
Mr. Burns is excused, Mrs. Carr is excused, Mr. Sickich,
Absolutely.
Mrs. Lee's excused, Mr. Becker,
Yes.
President Lee.
Yes.
Just get slapped.
All right, so we got our Dr. Robinson.
So what we're asking for the board to do is to approve changes that were made following our recent work with Dr. Zeman and Neola. Twice a year, cabinet meets with Neola and we review updates from the state legislature. And so we're playing catch up due to transition in leadership in the district. So we met in December to cover the July changes. So that's what we're asking for approval for tonight.
Can you just send out, send us these ahead of time so we can review them? Does anybody have any questions or concerns about any of the proposed changes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, those pass. Thank you very much. Now I would look for a motion in a second. Convene an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent F, for the purpose of considering student disciplinary expulsion orders, which if discussed in public would be likely to have a substantial effect upon the reputation of the students involved.
So moved.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Sickich,
Yes.
Ms. Deal,
Yes.
Mr. Burns is excused, Mr. Becker,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Carr is excused, Mrs. Lee's excused, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
President Lee.
Yes. All right, we'll take a brief recess. We can get ready for executive session. Awesome.